listening to the Bomb Hole.
Bomb Hole Podcast.
It's going to be very hot. It's going to be very uncomfortable for everybody.
The Bomb Hole.
We're gonna slide down them big hills, you know what I mean, on the big, nice burgundy snowboard.
All right, let's do this, buds. Welcome to the Bomb Hole, which is presented by Pub Beer. Now, first things first, Stony Buds, how are we doing?
So good, my dog.
Oh, that one sounded good. And to my left, we have Mike McEntire, a.k.a. Mack Dawg, in the booth. Dawger, how are we doing today?
Feeling good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
We are happy to have you in the booth. For our listeners that are unfamiliar with Mack Dawg and your body of work, Mack Dawg is the most prolific filmmaker in the history of snowboarding. His films have been a huge part of the progression and evolution of snowboarding and action sports as a whole. They've inspired generations from young to old. And he's done a great job with the stewardship of our sport. We're going to talk about so many films from, you know, Hard Hungry and the Homeless, Meltdown Project, True Life, Nixon Jib Fest, Shakedown, you know, Follow Me Around. The list goes on forever. We're going to get into all of it. But first things first, we got to know, how did you first pick up a camera?
Well, that's funny that you said that, because I was just up at Hood hanging out with the Capita team and Jeremy and Peter, and Mike Rave came up and he's like, "Oh, dude, I just want to know, what's your inspiration? Like, how'd you get into all this stuff?" And I'm like, well, it's probably not what you think, because there was no films when I started. There were no videos. There was no VHSs and stuff like that. And basically, my dad had a darkroom, and he was an amateur photographer, but very skilled. And he taught me the trade of how to expose, how to shoot, how to, you know, read a light meter, how to mix chemicals, how to print, the whole deal. And so that was my inspiration, basically, and what got me hooked into the whole thing, you know. And then he also had a Super 8 camera as well for like home movies. And, you know, we were playing Pop Warner, me and my brother, and my dad would go out and shoot. And at a certain point, we would have all the kids over, watch the movie, and it was kind of like this really cool vibe. And I was super stoked. And then I asked him, "Hey, can I help editing on this stuff?" It's like maybe like third grade or something. So we started editing, and then, yeah, my first film I made in sixth grade on that same camera, Battle of Bunker Hill, with some toy soldiers and ketchup and fireworks and stuff. So, but that was kind of how it started. It's kind of different than what a lot of people get into today, where they're looking at actual, like a snowboard film or a skate film or something like that, because it just was not existent.
So pre-skate and snowboard film, what was there? Like, I know I've heard you mention that there was surf making films first, right?
Well, and I'm not the expert by any means, but in my impression of it is, action sports kind of films began with the surf filmmakers, like Bruce Brown and Dana Brown, his son, and stuff like that. And it was just a thing where they would go and film, and then there was no internet. There's no way to get the word out. There's no medium to put it out on for people to watch it at their house. So the only way you could actually see the film is if you went to a place to watch it, which is typically like a moose club, like Elks Club Lodge, or you rent like a recreation center or something like that. You bring your projector, you bring your film that's actually film that you cut with tape splices, shot by shot, to a place like that. And the only way you could get people, and you would show the film and then do like a live narration, you know what I mean? And play music. And that's how I kind of got into doing it too. So I would shoot a bunch of film, cut it together, and then just go to a place, rent it for like $150 and speak over the thing and kind of mix between some different audio sources for sound, for some music and stuff like that. And that was kind of how it was done. And the way you got people there was called four-walling. And that was pretty interesting, because you're fighting all the local bands and all the other community events that are happening for telephone pole space with your flyer that you bring around. You go to the city that you want to show your film in. Typical strategy, you go there a couple weeks in advance, put your flyer up for your movie on as many poles as you could hit. And, you know, it'll get covered up the next day or two by whatever the next band is that's coming to town, or whatever event there was, because there was no internet. Like, how are you going to know about it? You're walking around your town, you see this thing. Go there maybe another week before, then 3 days before, then the night before, you would just plaster the whole town and then hope that people would show up and pay their $5 to come in and watch your thing.
So telephone poles were the first Instagram.
Basically.
Is what you're telling me.
Basically. And it was prime real estate. It was a
Yeah.
battle to get that, like.
Or get covered, like you're saying.
You get covered all the time, like instantly. There'd be like some speed metal band coming right behind you, chink, 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 right over your poster. And you're looking at them going, dude, go back and hit your poster up over theirs. And like, so it was interesting. Yeah.
Analog, the original analog days. Now, so I'm guessing.
But
go
yes,
ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry. But yeah, just to continue that on, then finally they started having home movie stuff.
VHS.
And
That's
stuff
what I was
like
going
that.
to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm guessing by what you're saying is that the VHS changed that process.
Yeah, then VHS started becoming a thing and people could do that. And, that became a market for sure. That became something really cool. But the vibe wasn't the same. Like if you go to a place like to watch a surf movie, like a good surf movie back in the day, and there's 1,000 people in the auditorium and everyone is just raging and partying and the movie comes up on the screen and it's like got all the scratches and everyone's just going AWOL. Like it's super special. And then the guy's like actually speaking over the film and telling stories and stuff. It was really, really cool.
When movies like Endless Summer and The Search for Animal Chin hit, were you seeing those at all?
Yeah.
On VHS, did that inspire anything you did in snowboarding? Or
Animal Chin was in the era when I started filming skateboarding.
Same time.
It was actually at the same time that Stacy was doing that. And he was like pretty advanced, like in his process. He's a really amazing filmmaker, obviously. You guys should get him in here if you could. Like,
that movie was amazing. Dude.
Yeah, amazing filmmaker. And I don't really know him very good, but I'm definitely a huge fan. And so, yeah, he was in that same era when I was starting my whole career doing skate stuff way back in the late 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like Sick Boys came out in 1988, and that was the first original Mack Dawg production.
That was the first one. There was a movie before that called Goons in Paradise, which was...
Great name.
Yeah.
Dude, your names, they're just amazing.
Goons in Paradise.
Yeah, Goons in Paradise.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of Mack Dawg, right away I gotta ask. We got a guest question from none other than Peter Line. He's got the hard-hitting questions. Here we go.
Hey, Dawger, this is Peter. I'm just curious, how'd you get your nickname, Dawger?
He just trails off with that.
Well, that's Peter for you right there. So, yeah, and pure Peter form. That was a great question, Pete. So, yeah, my nickname came from my surf buddies from high school. We were called the Goon Squad, basically because we all super sucked at surfing. It's kind of like how we did everything back then. We had no idea how to do it. We were in Northern California, go to the flea market. There's a surfboard. Like, we should get that thing. Then there's a wetsuit, but it's like a diving wetsuit that's 7 mil thick and it has holes in it. But we'll get that too. Like, let's go surf. And we had no idea what we're doing. We show up at these spots in Northern California and people were just spray painting our car. Goons go home all the time, So we're like, oh, we're the Goon Squad, right? So we could fit all the boards in the trunk and all that. But those guys, my high school buddies, gave me that name as Mack Dawg just because my last name, McEntire. So it kind of stuck. It wasn't anything like I'm trying to be some cool guy or a Mac or anything like that or some like Snoop Dogg type thing who I've actually met. And I never said my name was Mack Dawg when I was hanging out with them.
You didn't tell Snoop Dogg that?
No, I was pretty much like, you can keep the dog thing. It's all good.
He's all D-O-double-G.
Yeah,
though, right?
D-A-W-G.
Yeah.
Kind of hits different.
Kinda hits
I like
different.
Slightly different.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I love how they spray painted your car. Goons go home. You're just like, sick, man. We're the Goon Squad.
Yeah.
You got to just accept that, huh?
Well, I had
The
to,
locals throwing that around.
after a few times of getting it on your car, you're just like, well, let's just run it.
Yeah, we're the Goon Squad.
Yeah.
Another thing, thinking about going back to Sick Boys, your original skate video that you made, if you're ever looking for inspiration, like if you're a filmmaker in snowboarding and need to find some, throw that video on, like the intro that you like narrate. Mack Dawg Productions and like the way it's edited and it's the titles and the font and those old videos are, I almost feel like they're coming back into circulation because they're great inspiration for people making videos now.
Well, what you want me to talk about Sick Boys?
Yeah,
Is that
let's
what
talk
you're
about
saying?
Sick Boys. Let's get in there. Yeah.
Okay, so how I got into doing my own films, I was, I'd made this movie Goons in Paradise, and that was a surf film with my buddies. It's called Goons in Paradise because no one can surf very good, but the waves are really good. So that was the whole the whole idea behind the film. And during that time, this guy named Steve Spalding came to town with his surf movie. He was putting his posters up. And I was just talking to him like, hey, I'll put up some posters for you. I'll hang out. And I got a little local surf film here. It's called Goons in Paradise. And he's like, you should totally show that at my show. Like, it's like a little short. So I showed it. And one of the guys in the audience is a really good filmmaker named John Malvino. He saw it and he was like, hey, I really laughed a lot. I thought that was a good film. I'm leaving for like 5 months on this film trip. You want to be an apprentice? I can't pay you anything, but I'll pay all your expenses. Do you want to go? And you have to get a passport and all this stuff within like 5 days. And I was like thinking about it. I was in college and I had like 5 vans. I flipped vans for extra money and stuff. I'm like, I'm in. So I sold all my vans and got all my stuff done and got on the program with him. And we worked on a skate film for a bunch of years and a surf film called Hoy and Mahana. It's about surfing in Tahiti way back in the day before people know what Chopu was or anything. Anyways, that guy, he was introduced me to the whole skate people, and through that I met Bryce Knights, who was, legendary photographer and became a really good friend of mine. At a certain point, I parted ways with John and started wanting to do my own thing. And Bryce was working at Thrasher, and so he would just hit me up anytime there was a big session. He's like, get over here, this is going to be happening. And so I would just basically tag along with Bryce and shoot all these epic sessions. And he would take photos, and he was actually in the movie too. He was a pro skater. And so that's kind of how that happened. And then the whole DIY thing, like I was talking about the early films, like I had no money at all. So I lived in my van, and went around and filmed this thing and basically did whatever I could to get a couple more rolls of Super 8 to get the next shots, and then Mike King, who was a real good friend of mine from high school, he had become working in an ad agency in San Francisco who had this amazing edit suite. So it would be like, okay, we can edit from like whatever 2 a.m. till 6 a.m, like when everyone leaves, for free. So we would go in there and I would just do the whole thing. Like we just do like, okay, put it all together, like shot by shot. I would have it written down on paper, like go, 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 go. Okay, now we got like 45 minutes so everyone gets here. Do the audio pass. They're just deliriously tired, drinking beers and whatever else we were doing, and then just rip a narration track. And that's why when you watch that, you're like, what is happening? Like that was like straight up, like that's how that happened. So, and
go to kind of, I have a question about the editing suite, because back then you needed to cut 2 VCRs together and it was kind of a difficult process. So you had to do that in somebody's suite basically, right?
Yeah. I mean, all of the original films that I did, like the early surf films and skate films, when we showed them, those were all cut on film. So you have your little viewer, you're looking at your Super 8 and you're like, oh, I like that clip. And you grade it out, cut it with the razor knife, cut the next one, glue them together. And you have to have it like in your head, like what the shots are and like how it's going to work. And like, so I would just make notes like, okay, this shot's going to go here. And then it's like a full paper thing, like before you even did it. And then you're just cutting the pieces out and putting it and gluing them together basically. And so that's how that happened. And
that's how Hollywood films were made, right?
That's how all films were made.
Yeah,
and it's still how it happens in actual big films if they're shot on film. That's how it works.
They still do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty interesting process where you get a copy called the work print, which is a copy of your master immediately. And it has little numbers on it. Like when you start a film, this is kind of deep stuff. Do you guys want to hear about all this stuff?
Sure.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, it's kind of deep, but like let's say we're going to start. This is not me. This is like a Hollywood film. They would get film and it'd have edge numbers on the bottom, right? And they would order a whole batch. And so they would shoot their whole film. And then when they get the masters, and then they get copies, work copies, and it has the same numbers on the bottom. And then the guy who's cutting the film is actually cutting the film. Each time they make a cut, you have to write in this logbook from this frame on this roll to this frame. And then we're cutting to this roll from this frame to this frame. And they had like these big linen baskets with hooks where you like hang the pieces of film up, and you're like and you're like writing all the stuff down, and you're hanging up all the stuff, and then you assemble it. Once it's all done, then you make sure all those frame numbers and all that stuff matches up, and you hand it off to a person who's a negative cutter who would go into the actual master in like this super sanitary area, and they're the master film cutter. They would cut that, and then they make copies of that, and those copies are what made it to the theater.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's super crazy, and it's a lot of work. Yeah,
And that would still go to VHS. So that you shot it on Super 8 to VHS
at that point.
at that point. Okay. And then what was the next evolution from filmmaking from Super 8?
I guess, and like here we go. Like this is the original Death Lens. We have to talk about this.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So like this is legit. I got this
Death Lens.
I got this thing and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the best thing ever. And one of my good friends, Tony Roberts, who made like all the Speed Freaks videos back in the days, and he was a surf filmmaker too from Santa Cruz. We would get together and have shows. Like me and him, we would like show all of our footage and rent these little elk calls and stuff. And he had a little camera. Where did that my Super 8?
Super 8's right here. I got you.
I love all your old cameras.
Yeah, this is the Super 8 that Tony Roberts and I used to use all the time. I got this from Steve Spalding, the filmmaker that came a long time ago that I was talking to you about. Anyways, it went from that. For me, I shot all the early films like Sick Boys, Hocus Pocus, all that sort of stuff with this, and also some real early video cameras, and did that all the way through, let's see, New Kids on the Twock, Pocahontas, Hard, the Hungry, and the Homeless. And then when Meltdown Project year came around, that's when we
That thing looks heavy.
got to the big boy. And this is a Arri S camera and
16
millimeter. And this was the ones that I actually bought this when Mike Hatchie hit me up, and he's like, we should let's make a film company and make a film in 16. So I bought this camera to do that, and we started Standard Films. And
Same cam.
What was that first movie with Standard?
that was TB2.
TB2.
Because there was already a Totally Bored movie before that.
Did you make New Kids on the Twock before that?
Yes, New Kids on the Twock.
That was your first snowboard movie, right?
Yeah, and that was a collaboration with Fall Line Films, with Jerry Dugan and Artie Crable, that were doing those films. Like they did like Critical Condition and Riders on the Storm and the Western Front. They were before me in snowboarding for sure.
Who came up with the name New Kids on the Twock?
It's a great name.
Best name. It might be the best snowboard name out there, maybe.
I can't remember. Like that's the thing about this. When I came here to do this, I was like, I was a little hesitant because there's going to be some stuff that's kind of like foggy.
Hard to remember. Yeah.
I can't remember. It sounds like something I would think of for sure.
It could have been a collaboration, though.
But
You're all sitting around.
But I mean, the whole idea was like the Twock was like a poke, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the joke. Like New Kids on the Block was like this big thing, and it was like the new guys. It was Noah, Chris Roach, Monty Roach, John Bayaki, all these kind of guys that I was friends with, and they were doing newer things in snowboarding than kind of the established guys that Artie and Jerry were working with, who was like Damien and Dave Sione and these type of folks, and Farmer, yeah, all these kind of characters. So these like Noah and Chris and the guys I just mentioned, they were more like skate style, and that's why I gravitated towards wanting to work with those guys. And so that's why it was called that, like the New Kids, and then they could actually have skate style.
Yeah.
You know?
I got to thank you because New Kids on the Twock, Pocahontas, and Hard, Hunger, and the Homeless, that's what made me choose the path I chose and followed snowboarding. So thank you for that inspiration.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I remember being just young in high school, and that was everything. Those movies were the shit for sure.
It was a lot of fun to make them.
Yeah, I bet. And you compare them to those other ones, it was that skateboard vibe that, I don't know, really made me pursue it. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring up a point too, because I was talking to Peter Line for research purposes, and he was mentioning that some people would, talk about the fact that you make snowboard films and be like, oh, like Warren Miller as the only comparison. And he's like, I don't think Dawger likes that very much, that comparison.
Yeah. I mean, Warren Miller, obviously, he's done a lot of cool stuff. People love him and respect his work. And I have nothing bad to say about anyone that's doing stuff that's positive and cool. And it's not my style. It never has been. It's pretty mainstream. But yeah, like he and his son Kurt, they kept it going. It's still going. Like, who does that? Like,
yeah, that's
what I mean?
Cool.
I didn't do it.
He keeps going. It's rad that there's still Warren Miller movies and he's not alive anymore.
It's
right?
insane.
Yeah.
Like, who does that in snowboarding? Who's left? Like, out from the OGs, like Justin Hosnick, maybe.
Yeah.
Everyone else is out, dude.
Out.
So it's pretty. Can't say anything bad about that.
No, and they were I remember they would come through Burlington, Vermont, where I lived. They'd be like, "Oh, Warren Miller's coming," and he would come to the premieres back in the day, and just that narration style. It was definitely not our style, but you still went and checked it out, and
it was something cool.
But luckily, you were there to kind of put something out that the kids were really stoked on.
Well, it's funny you say that because, like, in skiing and also the early snowboard stuff that I first saw when I went up to the mountain with Noah, got me into it. Like, Noah Salasnek, huge friend of mine, R.I.P. He got me into it. He was a skater. He was on 8th Street, right? And as a skater, he wanted to have a snowboard shot in Hocus Pocus. And that was the first time I got dragged up to see snowboarding and try and film a shot of snowboarding. And I got to this horrible pipe. You know how they were back in the day. It's like a ditch.
Yeah.
And, there's like all the heavies were there. It was like Damien and Dana Nicholson, Sione, and I think Tom Burt was there even, and Noah and everyone. And
do you remember what mountain that was?
That was at Squaw.
Squaws.
Yeah, and I looked around and I'm like, what am I seeing here? Like, these dudes have like straight up like fluorescent stuff. Like, they've got all kinds of hair gel, like their hair's all spiked out, like kind of crazy Varney or Oakley blades, and like I was just like appalled, dude. And like the worst style. Like, to me, no offense, Damian Sanders.
Yeah, Damian's hair.
Like, he's an amazing snowboarder, and he has blown me away countless times. But when I first saw him in that pipe, sorry, Damian, I was like, it hurt me.
You puked in your mouth a little bit?
Basically, I was bummed. Like, because it was just like hard boots.
Yeah, hard boot and maybe one
like, he could poke in those hard boots. There's no doubt Damian poked, but it was just like this creaky noise, and like it just I was like, oh God, what is this shit? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was so bummed on it, and I was so glad to get away from there. And it took a while after that to kind of get into actually doing a snowboard film.
So what made that happen then?
Well, just being friends with Noah and Roach and the Roach brothers and Aaron Vincent and all those guys, those guys were my friends. And I actually started enjoying snowboarding and hanging out with them. And as you can tell, this camera is pretty small to carry around. So get a couple rolls in there. And so I started getting some shots, and that's actually how New Kids got made. I was not planning on making a snowboard film or getting into snowboard filmmaking at all, but I was just getting some shots of my friends. And then I lived across the street from Artie and Jerry, and I can't remember the movie they put out that year, but they put their movie out and they had all this leftover footage. And they're like, hey, we know you got some footage and we got a bunch of stuff we're not using. Let's just put it all together. And I'm like, why not? So we just partied on an edit together and slapped that thing together. And that's how it all started.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Mack Dawg snowboarding movies were born.
Yep, right there.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to get into kind of the evolution of action sports filmmaking. I think it's really cool to talk about from the very first, film from Super 8 and then 16, and then, you have VHS, DVD, red camera, then it's on YouTube, all that. We'll get into all that, the analog versus the digital. But before we do, I think we should just keep breaking down some more of these videos too, because, New Kids on the Twock, Pocahontas, HHH. I will say on our show, Hard, Hungry, and the Homeless for the generation before mine. It just seems like it was definitely the biggest kind of culture shifter out of all of those videos. Do you kind of want to dive into that period of maybe even upping the ante and that little period of making movies?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would have to say that, from my perspective too, like I just said earlier, like it's all about the feeling that you get when you watch the film. That's the whole purpose of it, right? You have to get something out of it. Otherwise, what's the point of sitting there and looking at something? And Hard, the Hungry, and the Homeless, to me, is basically like my favorite film too. And it was an interesting time in snowboarding, an interesting time in it was just, everything was new. You know what I mean? And there was zero money. No one was in it for anything to do with money. Everyone was like 10 people living in an apartment type of thing, sleeping under a kitchen table. And it was fine, dude. Like, as long as you could snowboard and hang with your bros. And it was just, that was a really interesting, that came across, you know what I mean? Like, it was so much love. Everyone had so much stoke for it. And that's why it has that feeling, like it's different. Like now, like Dale and Roan and Nate and Jake and all those guys, I think, and there was probably like 10 of those guys living in one little apartment, in Breckenridge. And you go in there and there's like garbage and plates piled like 20 feet high in the corner. And you're just like, everyone's totally happy, dude. Like that was what it was, So it was just, I think that's why it was such a special time, because there was just so much love for, everyone was just so happy to be doing it. And everything was open. Everything was wide open. Like anything you did was basically new.
Yeah, everything was an MBD, huh?
That's how easy is that? And you didn't have to go big.
Yeah, you just had to jib a stump.
Basically, you didn't even have to land very good. Like, I mean, it was pretty good times there.
Good times, yeah. Yeah, because, it was mostly filmed on a resort, right?
That movie, there was a lot shot at Breckenridge.
At Breckenridge, yeah.
I just drive my car up there. After it closed, we could, the Subaru is pretty good. We call it the Mountain Ferrari. It could go up if you get up early enough before it got soft, you could get pretty far up the mountain. And so we just drive the car up there and just set up and film. And
well, you were driving the car up the cat tracks? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right up the resort.
Nobody cared.
No, there's shots of it in the movie.
Oh, there is. You're right. Yeah.
They're sessioning on the hill.
Yeah.
But we'd always drive it up there and session on it. Or
I figured that was just some misty little road you put the car on. I did not realize that was like in bounds.
No, yeah, we would just drive the thing up there, and then you have to wait till it hardened up and later in the day, and then drive back down.
And then drive it back down.
Pro tip.
Yeah, pro tip. Yeah, why hike when you can drive the Subi up?
So we happen to have a guest question from none other than JP Walker. Here we go.
Oh boy.
What up, Mike? It's JP. I got a question about Roan Rodgers. And I think you've told me the answer to this question before, but I might have just made it up, so I need verification. But that rail, the kink rail that he tried in Tignes in France, it's at the end of Up in the Ante. I saw that photo in a magazine, and I never recovered from it. And I heard that he took you there and wanted to try that, and you were so tripped out by how gnarly it was and just all the factors and the consequences that you told him you weren't going to film it, and he said, "That's fine, I'm doing it anyway." So did that really happen, or did I make that up? Because that photo, that rail, and that idea that Roan was going to do that, whether you filmed it or not, really shaped a major part of my career. So let me know.
Dang. Well, the true story is that is true. Roan Rodgers, and when that wasn't the first time that I was like, I don't want to film that. Like, it's too gnarly. And he's like, I'll do it by myself. And at that point, you're like, well, he's going to do it anyway. It's like, I guess we'll film it. But that rail in particular, JP, yes, that it was the case. That was just a horrifying thing. There was like all kinds of like sharp pipes and shit all underneath it. It was so sketchy. Like me and Jason Ford, and I think Dale was there too. We were just sort of dragging anything we could to cover up all this like metal shard land that he was going to land in if he came off outside, you know what I mean? And he did come off outside. Mm-hmm. Luckily we put all that stuff in there, but yeah, the whole setup, it was just so janky. There's no in run.
Yeah, there's no drop in, right?
There's no drop in.
It's like a leaned in bench. Right?
Yeah.
It was just horrifying, the whole thing.
That was like the first real rail too.
That was
wasn't
the first super gnarly thing that, I mean, it's a bail, but it's like, okay, things have changed now. You know what I mean?
It happened. He tried it. And
that wasn't the first. Like Roan Rodgers, like if you ask me, like I'm not going to sit here today and say who's my favorite snowboarder and who's that sort of thing, because there's a million of people that I worked with that are just so good and I respect so much. It's can't even go down that road. But Roan, definitely, he's one of the best snowboarders who ever lived, in my opinion. And what he did for snowboarding, it's just so underappreciated. From that, like we would go to rails and he would go to rails and just be like, we're go out and do something at night and you come back and here's Roan like trying to do something where it's like, you're going to die if you don't do it. And he's out there by himself, just happy as can be, just sessioning something. You're like, what the, and that happened all the time, and then, like just that level of mentality. And then his jumping too was just insane, dude. Like he was just so far ahead of everything. He just didn't like to be in front of the camera. He didn't want to be like some big superstar guy. But yeah, when you watch him ride and you watch his edge control, that's what I first look at when I look at any rider. Like, can they actually ride? Like, what are they doing with their edges? And when I saw Roan, and it's kind of like Terrier or something like that, you're like, this guy's a magician, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he was so influential and stood out so hard or so much in those videos.
He was the best.
Yeah. I have a Patreon question for you kind of along these lines. And this is from Nicholas Bellinger. Of all the initial times you encountered a new rider, who had the strongest initial talent factor?
That's a tough one. There's been a lot, I mean, that's a really hard question.
And it's not to say who's your favorite. It's like who just, when you first saw him, was just like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Because I know mine was like Mark Frank. Seeing that dude, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
This dude's got raw talent.
I mean, I was really impressed with a lot of people. I mean, Noah Salasnek, of course. Like, that's how I even got into it. Like, if I didn't meet Noah and I wasn't impressed with his riding, there wouldn't be any of these films at all. I would have stuck in skateboarding. I would have probably tried to do like conventional, like Hollywood movie style, move to LA and do that, but yeah, like Noah was shocking. Like back then he had skate style and he just looked good, like to me.
And no one else was like that back then.
Well, Roach too. Yeah. Those two guys, I mean, that whole crew, I'm not going to say they're the only guys. There was a little crew of people in different areas, but where I was and who I hung out with, it was the Roach brothers, Aaron Vincent, Noah. But I mean, Noah was my guy, obviously, right? So I would have to say him. When the first time I saw Terrier ride, I'm like, what is happening, right?
Yeah, how is this possible?
We're just looking at his edge control. It's like Roan, you're like Shaun White. Like, it's just people that just have the gift,
It's different people in different generations, I bet.
Yeah.
Like right now, it's kind of Zeb. You see
Yeah,
Zeb, and
totally.
it's like, how is this possible?
But when I saw Zeb ride, like at Heavy Metal and also at Peace Park this year, I was like, shocked.
Yeah, there it is,
It's totally shocking.
Yeah.
It's just a whole different level of board control, and so those are the kind of people that impress me the most. There's been a bunch of them and other people for different reasons, like Jamie and Peter, and it goes on and Gooch, like there's just countless people that are been in the films that are just so good.
Yeah, certain people just have that special thing.
Yeah, for sure.
That you can't bottle or buy. It's just, they just have it.
I think to me, it's just a full board control. Like once you have that, if you have that, then anything's at your fingertips, right?
Yeah, anything's possible.
Yeah.
It's definitely wild to kind of think, because back then when you guys were making videos, the people that you're choosing to be in the videos, if they're in there, they're kind of the guy.
Yeah, they're
right.
The shit.
So you're all essentially kind of talent scouting of who to put in these videos. How did it work for picking people that you filmed?
Well, in the beginning, it was just like, who was snowboarding, right? I mean, it was like I said, I met Noah and Roach and those guys and all the Tahoe crew. And then beyond that, it was just, go on a trip. And then we went to Colorado, and then, hey, here's all these joyride kids, It's like, it was Roan and all his bros, Dale and all them. And it's just like, oh, these guys are sick, you know, and then go somewhere else and go to Big Bear and, well, who's that kid ripping? Oh, that's Gooch. Oh, cool. Let's bring him along. You know what I mean? So it was just, you know, there's no internet. There's nothing like to really find these guys. It's just go around and see who's ripping at each place and try and rope them in, you know?
Did you realize the impact that these videos were having on people when they came out? Could you feel that right away?
No, definitely not. Like, and it's kind of funny. Like, I like to make films. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a total film nerd. Like, I get behind the whole process of doing it and capturing it and making the best feeling. But after that, like, I mean, I'm on to the next thing. I won't watch my films even really or anyone else's. Don't want to be influenced, and just like, I just want to do cool stuff and keep it fresh and not overanalyze, you know what I mean? So yeah, so I never really looked at it that way at all.
Now, we were talking yesterday, and I thought this is kind of a cool point you were making, but I was talking about the way people make videos nowadays. A lot of companies will set out like, well, let's just make a video. Like, we'll just throw a video together, you know, and whether it's they go on 1 or 2 trips, but it's just like, oh, let's just make something and put it out. And back then, it seemed like it was much more like, no, we're making like a video, and it's going to be the best video. Was that your guys' mentality going into it?
In the beginning, definitely not. Like, the beginning was just, like I said, it was a free for all.
Yeah.
It was super fun. And it was just, like I said, anything was open. You do something, basically almost anything, and it was never before. You know, like, it was sick. Like, oh, look, dude, we never got that shot before. And so it was pretty exciting. And things progressed and things got a little more serious, and it became more of a business. And I was hiring people like Ross, Steffi, and Kurt Heine, some of my early guys. You know, like, then it became more of a thing where we're involved with like the livelihood of people now. Like, let's make some dope shit, you know? So that's when it got a lot more serious, when, you know, there's a lot of people at play there, and it grew, you know, it grew. At a certain point, I think we had like 8 or 10 people getting paid full time and only working 6 months, because it just worked out with, like, we were making money. These guys put their heart and soul into the 6 months or whatever that they filmed. Now come down and surf and hang out. Let's just rent a house or something. Like, you guys get paid. Like, let's have a good time, you know? So, and then, you know, everyone was pretty serious because they want to maintain that lifestyle.
What made it become from you living under tables and doing what you're doing for free to actually becoming a paid job? Like, when did you realize it was going to be a career? At what movie, I guess?
I mean, it started to become a little bit more, I guess, sponsorship money would start to come into it a little bit. And then, like, video sales started coming up a little bit. And I was able to start to afford to have people help, and like, distributors started coming into it. Like, it just became a business, you know, like, people it was a natural thing, though. It was, I don't know, maybe like, in Hard, the Hungry, and the Homeless, like, we were out in Colorado, and like, one of my first sponsors, not the first, but one of the first, there's a cool story, is I was out there with Noah and the car broke down, like my Subaru. Like, so not surprising, I bought it for $500, right? So anyways, transmission's out. How are we going to get home? What are we doing? We have no money. We can't eat, you know, like, type of thing. And so he was riding for Billabong. I, you know, helped kind of facilitate that because I knew someone that worked there. And he's like, you should just ask, you know, Bob Hurley. He owned Billabong then. He's like, just see if he'll help us out. Like, call him up, cold call him. And he's just like, how much does it cost to get the car fixed? No, it's like $2,000 or something. It's like, if we had $2,500, we could eat and stuff. And he FedEx a check, and there's the Billabong logo on the box. And like, whoa, this actually maybe could work. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of
started putting it together.
Yeah, it started coming together a little bit there.
And you were the only person I've ever heard of that actually, you started collecting so much money, extra money, you actually sent some to riders, right?
Yeah, at a certain point, like, there was a heyday. Like, there was a special time in snowboarding when there was a lot of movies we were selling, and we were doing good, you know, like, there's no doubt about it. And so instead of just hoarding all that, everyone worked hard. They put their time in. They risked their body.
Yeah, their
and-
lives, these riders, right?
Yeah, and it's serious stuff. So, yeah, like, okay, let's chop up the pie, dude. Like, everyone gets a cut. And so we were able to do that. And, that was really special to be able to do that. And I don't know if anyone else did
I
it,
heard
but-
stories about that. I've never heard of anyone else actually doing that. And the riders didn't even know it was coming. They would just all of a sudden get a check and be like, "Whoa, holy shit!"
Yeah,
We'll
why
go
not?
back, but quick question I got to ask: in the heyday, like how many units are we talking? How many
good
VHSs
question.
are sold?
I think maybe at the highest end, maybe 60,000, something like that.
Was that True Life or what are we talking?
Yeah, in that era,
Resistance.
in that whole era, there was quite a few videos, and then there were some years where we put out multiple videos. So, yeah, there was some.
So
money
you're moving
getting-
unis. You're moving
Yeah, and there was
unis.
distributors overseas that would just, hey, let me get 10,000, let me get 15,000.
It was good. It was good, and for sure. There was
Did you catch any bootleggers out there?
Well, I mean, that's a whole different topic. If you want to get into like why snowboarding films kind of died off, that's where that whole thing kicks off.
We should get there maybe later.
Yeah, let's get there
'Cause
later.
We should make a note to get there, but that's a great topic.
Let's stay on the formative years stuff too, because I guess you're kind of established at this point. But I like the fact that thinking about you making a video, there's it's came up in the fact that JP mentioned on his episode about at a certain point in time you kind of became cutthroat with people's footage, where everybody, they film all year, you get married to your clips, you want everything in, and your perspective you mentioned about it's not just about filming like your part, it's about the movie, but also more so it's about snowboarding looking good. That really resonated with me when we were talking. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, after we started getting a little bit more serious, like I said, and we had tons of footage, like there's a lot of shots, and we just started making the decision that if it's not like super banger, what's the point, right? And that's what really started setting the films apart. I think, the name Stomping Grounds, that was kind of like we made that movie name for that purpose, like stomp or it's out, you know what I mean? Like that's the whole point of it. And there was a ski movie actually that came out this year called The Stomping Grounds, and
That was this year?
Matchstick Productions put it out, and I hit those guys up. I'm like, oh, nice name. And they're like, don't see anything bad about it. Like, we got this. Like, you shouldn't look at that old thing. I'm like, it was part of snowboard's history, dude. Like, I just think it makes you guys look bad. But
That was this year?
This year, dude.
Talk about, there's one thing like using a song again, but a movie name?
And they're like, we don't know, dude. I'm like, so at that point, like, it's like another thing, like Warren Miller. They've been in it for a long time. They claim they didn't know about it, that they just thought it was a cool name. So whatever, but I had to at least give them a little nudge.
Give them a little jab.
But yeah, so that's kind of where that came from. Like, we really decided to do that, and so it was a lot more pressure on the riders, and like a JP or a Peter or Jeremy and whoever it was, like no one was safe, dude. Like, hand drag, a little bit of this, a little bit of them, like, didn't quite get the rotation. It's done. Sorry. And that really made a big difference, because when you watch the film, you're like, you just get stoked because it's a level of excellence in the riding, that a lot of other people didn't have as much of an axe, basically. And
it puts you on that top tier.
Well, I think it just makes it more fun to watch.
Yeah.
You're not watching filler, filler is lame. Like, we always had an idea, but we want to keep it. So you watch this film, you get this sick feeling from it, but it's short. So you can watch when you're eating your breakfast, and then you go to the hill and you're amping. That was the idea. We don't want to make some long 45 to an hour long movie where, by the time you're done eating and then you're like, oh, is it still going or whatever, you know what I mean? So wanted to keep it kind of more bite-sized. So to make it that length, and then there's no time for anything else at that point. And it worked. It worked really good.
So you actually pre-conceptualized, we're going to make this short so people get hyped. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was the idea.
Because we were getting hype before we went riding, and that's exactly it.
That was the point.
There's also a misconception too that when doing that you're kind of a dick. And in talking to Catherine, your wife, she was saying like it was your way to bring the best out in people.
Well, I mean, you can look at anything anyway, right? I think back then, I'm not going to, I think things have changed. There's like generations of people. And like, you got the people that came from the Depression area or whatever, and they're like tough as nails. Like it doesn't matter what they dealt with. They're going to survive and they're tough. And no matter what you say to them, you're not going to hurt their feelings. And you know what I mean? So you can relate to people on that level. And then, towards the end of my career, there's people that were a lot more sensitive, let's just say, like riders. And you call them out for like, that wasn't that good. And they basically like want to cry or something. You're like, dude, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings at all. I'm just telling you what's been done. And if that's good enough, if that is the standard, like I'm not attacking you personally at all. I'm just talking about snowboarding, So some people didn't like that. Of course, people don't like to be called out, but that's another quality control that makes the films good. Like if you just are satisfied with everything, then it's going to be like everything else. And what's the point of that? And to get a little bit further on that point, like when we're shooting, like before digital, like when you're shooting on these film cameras and stuff, no one could see that film. Like the only person that saw the shot was the guy that was shooting it. That's it. So you're looking through the little viewfinder at the dude do the trick. And if it looks funky to you and you don't call it out right then, and then whatever 2 months or 3 months down the line when the film gets processed and transferred and everyone looks at it and they thought they had a clip, then they don't. But you actually knew at that time and you didn't call them out, then whose fault is that? Really?
Yeah, it's your fault that they didn't get the shot.
Right? So I was always having to be that guy, and all the guys on my crew too, because they knew what the standard was. So we did have kind of a harsh rep as far as that goes. But I mean, it was just because we're trying to make a good film.
You're trying to make the best movie in snowboarding,
and get the best,
do it.
and get the best out of the rider. You know, like if someone could do something better, and it's not good, or it's good but it's not like super perfect.
Yeah, they needed to learn to not take it personal, and you're just trying to make.
I like
cool
that
movie.
analogy about the generations have gotten softer. That's
and
for
they
sure.
still get softer every generation.
It keeps going every, but. Going back to what you said, I've seen so many instances where video projects, the editor says, hey, you can edit your own part. And I'm probably guilty of doing this myself. Or you can, and somebody gets married to all their clips and they say they want every clip they filmed in their video. And writers, if you don't do that, the writer will cannibalize their video part saying, I want this clip and I want that. And it's like, well, that's why they invented the skip button, is because you wanted all your fucking clips in their part and now it's a skipper.
Yeah.
So that's, you ended up saving people from themselves by doing that.
Yeah. And I had a lot of help with that, by the way.
Do you want to reference the doll while we're at it?
Well, I mean, the doll here, this is a gift from JP. I think he was on here talking about stuff. So to have the critical eye, like at a certain point, like guys like the top dudes, they knew what the program was, and they're the writers. They know more technically, like if something's a little bit off, right, than I would at that point. So at that, later on into the career, I would bring those guys into the edit suite, and like guys would come in and edit their whole part. The whole movie would be pretty much done, and then, okay, let's book some tickets for JP and Peter or whoever the axemen were. And they would come in and sit with me and be like, cut. And we would just chop the movie down and have to rearrange the music and everything. But that's how it got, that's how it maintained, and actually JP gave me this doll. He came around one year, he was moved on to other stuff, and he was coming around to see some footage I was editing. And he's like, dude, I'll be back. And he went to, I don't know where he got this, Toys R Us or something, and he got it. And he put it on my desk facing me like this. And it's like, there needs to be a bloodbath, dude. Like,
I can just imagine him saying that.
And so, like, basically, it looks like JP, right?
Yeah, it does, right?
So it's like and I still use this on all my edits. Like when I get near the end, I'm like, all right, bring him out. And I turn him around so he's right in front of the monitor, staring right at me with his arms up, ready to chop. And I'm like, all right, we got to get gnarly. And so
let's do this.
So anyways, thanks, JP, for keeping it real. And the best part about this, if you take his hat off, that looks like me, see?
The bald head.
So it's kind of like both of us, but he's helped me a lot. Yeah.
And for the listeners, he's holding a doll that's covered in blood with like a big old knife.
And he kind of has
and a
some
hook.
features
And a
like
hook.
JP.
Yeah.
And half of them
He's
is-
got the chin.
He's
Look.
got the chin.
JP
He's got
chin.
the chin.
That's the thing. Like when you
We
look
should
at
get
this,
some
dude,
cornrows in that hair.
this thing's tight.
Yeah. That is
Dude, it's funny you talk about generations getting softer. I was listening to this podcast, and it talks about how the further we get away from the Great Depression and people getting drafted to war, is the softer and softer and softer. And until something like that happens again, it'll just keep continuing, you know? And I guess we're seeing that.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I think there's a new generation now. I don't really believe that anymore. For a little while, towards the end of my career, I was feeling that. But then going around recently, I've been, I still dip my toes in quite a bit. We did all those real snow shows with SPT and Gunny and with Sarah and stuff. And
I mean, those guys had to be cutting
and
hardcore.
and all that sort of stuff. I got to go and be a part of it, dip my foot in, see what they were doing. It's like a 90-second clip, and people were getting gnarly again, and people were being really solid, and going to the peace parks and stuff like that. And it just there's been a change again. And being like heavy metal this year and watching the kids ride, I was like, okay, we're re-upped.
Yeah, we're
I
getting
think
there.
so. I think
Yeah.
it's re-upped. I think the kids are gnarly again, and they are burly. So I'm really happy to see that.
Yeah, the progression is insane.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and talk to you guys about Woodward Park City. The thing I love about that place is it's 15 minutes from Salt Lake. Right after we get done recording an episode in the winter, you can cruise up. It feels like you're going to a skate park, as opposed to going up to a mountain for some big resort, big mission that takes all day. They got lights. Right now you can go mountain biking. They're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single night. They got airbags up there if you want to learn how to backflip and you want to land on your head on a bicycle. Go ahead. Homies are learning them. Jeremy Jones did a backflip up there. Shout out, let's give him an air horn for that.
Big air horn.
What else they got going on? It's one of Salt Lake's only indoor skate parks. Whether it's hot as hell or raining, you can go skate indoors. The monthly memberships offer unlimited access to indoor and outdoor spaces for one low price each month.
There's also daily access available through 2-hour sessions, all-day lift tickets, or a variety of lessons, clinics, and camps in 7 different sports like skate, BMX, mountain bike, cheer, parkour. And I'm good at the parkour. I'm kind of nice.
Yeah,
with
you
the
are actually a parkour freak, is what people are saying.
Scooters, try them all with a multi-sport lesson. I mean, you can pretty much do anything up there, and it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And the thing I like about it is the pass is cheap. You can do day passes or you can do the monthly pass is a great deal. So cheaper than freaking a couple of lift tickets from most places. But anyway, check out Woodward Park City if you're in the area. All right, we're going to take a quick break and talk to you guys about Bubs Naturals. Now, what is Bubs Naturals? So they're a company that makes all kinds of products, but the one that I like the best is their collagen protein powder. Now, I like to take this, mix it in a smoothie. I take 2 scoops, throw it in a smoothie with some blueberries, banana, almond butter, some chia seeds, some oat milk. Mix it all up. You got yourself a great smoothie. And the thing that's great about it, with 2 scoops of collagen in there, you get 20 grams of protein. And as you get older, your body kind of loses its ability to synthesize this protein. So you got to get it in the system if you want to keep snowboarding when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. If you want to be 110 and still be able to make twist or just turn down the hill for that matter, you got to take care of your body. So that's what's cool about Bubs. It's a company that comes from the world of snowboarding. So, snowboarders for snowboarders here. And you're supporting a great brand. 10% of all of their profits go to charity. So if you want to take care of your body, head on over to bubsnaturals.com. Use promo code BOMBHOLE for 20% off. Again, bubsnaturals.com, promo code BOMBHOLE for 20% off. I usually go through about 2 of these jugs a month if you're getting a lot down the gullet. So, again, bubsnaturals.com, promo code BOMBHOLE. All right, Dawger, we're going to go a little out of order here, but I gotta ask you about something. I heard a little rumor that Forum is maybe coming back. What's going on with that?
That is true. And we are doing this again, and it's really exciting. And been having my foot kind of in dabbling in snowboarding the last 10 years, but not fully in the binding, so to speak. And bringing Forum back with Jeremy Jones here, one of my really, really good friends, an amazing snowboarder you guys all know. And he's one of the owners with me, and Peter Line, and we were all brought this opportunity by a guy named Joshua Schoonover, who acquired the brand after Burton let the trademark lapse, and he brought us in, and it's pretty special.
And you were one of the original owners when Forum was first formed.
Yeah, Forum was formed, I think, 95 or 96. Peter was kind of the hot guy back then. And he was riding for Division 23, and Greg DeLeo was his team manager running kind of the whole thing down there. And they came to me and they're like, hey, we're thinking about maybe starting a snowboard brand. Do you want to help us out with this? And it's like, I guess so. It seems like a good plan. And so, yeah, we started Forum. We got in there with also with Raul Reese and Marcus Bohe, these guys who had it was called 4-Star Distribution, and they also had Special Blend. And then Peter was already at that point doing Foursquare with those guys. He was an owner in that. And that's kind of how it all started. I worked with those guys for maybe 5 or 6 years, I think. Kind of parted on not such good terms. But we did some cool stuff. We made some cool movies, and Jeremy and JP were definitely a part of it, and Peter, and we had the dream team. Like it was a crazy time in snowboarding. I mean, Jeremy, you can talk about that time for you. Like, how was that? Like with that team and that whole situation was next level, huh?
Yeah, I mean that was next level. So Hollywood stuff, right? Or not even that, rock star stuff. Like, I mean, that was as famous as I've ever been. That's for sure. Crying people and people on their knees, and I don't know, it was wild, strange.
It was epic, actually. Yeah.
Boy band for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so both Jeremy and I kind of got out of there on probably not the best of terms, and then it kind of fizzled. I don't know exactly what happened. I was already out of there. Moving on to other stuff, we just continued on. And then Burton picked it up. I don't know how that went down, the whole thing. I heard that Jake didn't want it to be picked up by a ski company or by like an overstock. That was a big deal, like these people buying brands and just throwing them into whatever kind of overstock type stores and kind of blowing it out. So he kind of wanted to protect the legacy and bought it and ran it for a bunch of years and decided he just wanted to focus on Burton. Said he was, kind of done with it. And at that point, this is an interesting story. Both JP and this Joshua Schoonover, who's a trademark attorney, they made note of the time. There's a 3-year period after when you stop making product that if you don't make product, that trademark is open for someone else to apply for. And so they were both had that on their calendar. JP hired some attorneys, and he called me about it, he called you about it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then he wasn't in time. Like Joshua beat him to the punch. And so JP was calling up Joshua and was like, what's up with this, dude? Like he found out this guy from Carlsbad actually got the mark. And so they were talking, and this was before Roberta got hurt, and he was calling us up and do you guys want to maybe do this again? Like it was kind of already kind of in the works. Right. And then after Roberta got hurt, he didn't really have the capacity to do anything else but to care for her. So he kind of exited stage left. And when I think Joshua said he was in court with Burton for 4 years in crazy litigation to get the mark, because Burton wanted to maintain it at that point. They realized that they messed up. And he won the mark, and he called JP, and JP was still too busy with all the stuff with Roberta. And JP mentioned, hey, call up Mike and see if you can get some of the other guys in there, because we had all been kind of kicking it around for a while. I know JP and Jeremy actually were trying to get it from Jake before the mark expired. There was all this stuff give it to Peter. It's everyone was pretty upset that Forum went away the second time, the zombie brand. But but it, for whatever reason, good luck or whatever you want to call it, Josh called me up and said he wanted to get original people in there. He wanted to give us have us have creative control over it and let us basically run it the way we wanted to run it. And I said, there's no way I can do it by myself. And so first call, Jeremy, Peter, like, dudes, these are the people that I totally trust. And then different levels, we all bring something way different to the equation. That's a strength. And we molded over, and you could talk about that a little bit, Jeremy. Like, we were kind of off and on about it. And
yeah, I mean, it was a hard sell, you know, especially, you know, I won't speak for Dawger entirely, but we've shared these conversations, and our exits, he mentioned it earlier, from Forum weren't the same as like Peter's and JP's. You know, JP's left a little earlier. He goes over that on his bomb hole, and then, you know, Peter was there from day one to day done, right? So he bookended the whole forum run, and me and Dawg were out like after the first kind of era of Forum, and it went bad. Like, it really wasn't that rad. You know, it was our choice to leave, but it was because of a series of just, I don't know, whack scenario basically. And so we had that in our mind, and usually, you know, everything following whack scenario in our careers had to do with some sort of like attorney or a contract or some like promise of ownership that you just never get. And like, we're going to sell for $350 billion in like 2 years. And so if you work for us for free, we're going to cut you in on that for 5%. And so we were like, all right, let's just combat this pitch that we know is coming to us. And so we kind of strung him through. You know, we tested Josh hard. Like, we dragged it, I mean, I don't know, 4 months longer than it needed to be, you know, and for sure than he wanted. And so he took that walk with us, you know, and he responded, and he passed essentially our tests and
vibe check, if you will.
Yeah, full vibe check, and just, you know, and then also testing him against, like, you know, what he's offered us. He, you know, this creative control, and then to present him ideas different than what he planned, and then he just listens and gives it to us. All right. So like he's doing what he says. So for us right now, this is a great relationship. We feel, I mean, a lot of things. It feels heavy. It feels like a big responsibility. I feel like there's a lot to show and pay respect to, the way we move about this. And so we have a lot of conversations about that. That is on the table in just every single week in some form or another. Like, you know, what will JP think of this? You know, is he going to be down with this move of what he built? You know, Pete, what do you think of this? You were there from day one to day done. Dawg, what do you think? Do you care? You know, it's like there's certain people that just contributed in a certain way that we have to move forward, whether they're here or not. We have to move forward in respect to that. At least that's the way I feel. And there's some weight there, you know, to like nail it. We want to nail it. We need to nail it. We really, really want to nail it. We think we can. We feel like the right people are behind it, and including Josh being one of those. And really just feel kind of grateful that he, you know, I promise he can make more money with this thing without us. We are not, we changed that plan.
But it's got a heartbeat. It was just, that's what it needs.
It's got a heartbeat.
It needs a heartbeat, yeah.
Yeah, we are putting blood in it, and it's pumping, and it's warm, and that's real.
Yeah.
So boards, are people going to be able to buy boards? What's going on? Can we talk about that? Yeah,
Jeremy knows more about that stuff than I. He's kind of the expert in that opinion.
Yeah, boards will be hitting this season. You'll buy them off the website. There'll be a handful of shops that will hopefully, pick up a few and have a small run, but mostly it'll be on the site, direct sales. And, we're looking to just build slow. We want to build slow, product right away this season. So look for that. Website will hit, in the next few months here. Probably, I'm not sure when this drops, but, September-ish. You're looking at stuff. We have some hard dates, but you know how those go, so I won't call him out.
Who's doing is Peter doing the graphics?
Yeah, Peter's doing the graphics.
Sick.
And so be stoked to have him kind of talk about that at one point. And he's having a lot of fun doing it, just being back in snow and just kind of having, a little mystery the way we've been kind of presenting it so far. And so it's been fun, and we feel like we're doing it the way Forum needs to be done, and it won't be what it was. It's not intended to be, but Forum is intended to be in snowboarding. I think I feel like there really was a piece missing without knowing it, and you can feel it when it's back, and knowing that it's back. I've been feeling that for a minute, and so I'm excited to see if everyone else gets a piece of that too. But yeah, look for gear this year and a team to follow. It's all coming down. It's just gonna be slow and with intent, and with intent to be here for ever.
Yeah, that was an issue in the past. Was we created this hype team. We had the videos were so hitting. The people that worked at 4-Star were so good at marketing, and we created this monster of people that wanted this product. And we, at a certain point, Peter and I were on a shoot in the old days. This is one of the reasons why I got out. Was we need to make this many boards. This is how many orders we have. There's no way we can afford to make these boards, but we have these orders. So they're like, Peter, Dawger, come into the office. We got to, and we go in there, and they're like, you guys need to come up with $1 million each by 2 weeks. Otherwise, we're bringing in other investors, and you're losing a lot of your shares. I went from 20 to 1 or something. I'm like, seriously, dude, get it from a bank or something. You know what I mean? But it was just crazy, and we're not going to do that again. So that's what I think the whole purpose is of. We're going to make it sustainable, and we're going to build a team again, but it's going to be, it's going to take time, because we're not going to be oh, we're going to take a zillion orders or whatever. We don't want to do that. We want to bring something back to snowboarding, soul and the feeling, and bring the right people in that we feel can represent, and give them their ability to shape what snowboarding's future is. We'll be the heads, the grandpas. Basically, I am basically almost at that age, and I could be a grandpa. So yeah, kids, this is your thing now. We are wise. We've been through all this stuff. We know the mistakes, and we can make something super cool and give you guys a platform to do something amazing. So that's how we want to do it, and that's what we're going to do. So
that's exciting. Sidebar question: who made the Forum logo?
Well, I would take credit for that original drawing. I mean, I've been playing guitar for a long time, and it was at the beginning, it was oh, it's an F. What Forum F? What are we going to do with it? Is it the writing or this and that? And I'm looking at a guitar with an F hole cut, and I'm that's pretty much says it all. It has balance, it has beauty, it's kind of sexy looking, it looks rad, and it has it's musical, so it has just a lot of vibe to it, so I just drew that on a napkin, just made a little box around it. I'm like, what do you guys think? And everyone's like, that looks pretty cool. And then Nico Octipes, I think, got in there, and I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure he's the one that cleaned it up and made it what it was. That was actually this logo. I don't know if you could see it. It's a lot rounder, and this is a new logo up here. So it's a little straighter, a little more modern, I guess you could say. But yeah.
Another thing, just thinking about Forum, I know we got a lot of stuff to talk about, but the thing that's exciting is that, you made True Life, Resistance, Decade, all the, in my opinion, I will say, others may have different opinions to them, but to me, the Forum 8 era of Forum is the era that really hits the heartstrings for people, and I think that's amazing is you filmed all the people on forums in the Forum 8. in those eras. And so you could tell that story. Is that something you guys are planning on doing?
Well, I mean, that's something that we definitely will lean into at some point. We've talked about doing like a kind of a forum documentary. There's so much to it. Like there's a lot of crazy stories and drama and stuff like that. But we want it to be new, dude. Like we're not going to roll this thing out like some nostalgia play. That's not what the idea is. We want it to be new. We want it to be fresh. We want it to be current. And like I said earlier, we want to build a team and give them a platform to establish what snowboarding is to them and bring something new to snowboarding that as older guys, we're not going to be that. We don't want to be that voice. You know, we've already done our thing as far as that sort of thing. But I'm looking at being, like I grew up having I did an apprenticeship, one of my first things. And I want to bring kids in that I think have the ability to become amazing filmmakers, have them be my apprentice, learn crazy stuff, like hook them up with some red cameras, and like teach them how to do it and have them go out and have the right team. And like, okay, it's a blank slate for you guys. We're going to make sure that we know a lot of problems. You could fall off this cliff over here or that. We'll just put some ropes up here and there, but that's what our plan is. So no, we're not trying to go for an old nostalgia thing. It'll be something we could talk about and possibly do in a documentary, but yeah, that's not the idea.
Love it. Forum seems like it's going to kick ass. Let's do this.
Let's do this. I'm so hyped. This is not your parents' forum. That's what I keep joking. No one else thinks it's funny but me, but
I love it.
We're back, but this is not your parents' forum.
Sweet. What's the website?
Where's the website?
Forumsnowboards.com.
Right now it's loading next. Yeah, it'll be forumsnow.com, Forum Snowboards. Forumsnowboards.com.
We'll have a link in the show notes if you're listening and the YouTube if you're watching, so you guys can check that out. So I got to ask, I kind of heard a rumor that over the course of your career, you didn't really like watch many other videos from other
He told us that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, no disrespect, but literally want to do a cool film, do something original and not be influenced by other people at that point, and also live life doing other things besides worrying about what other people are doing, really. You know what I mean? I want to go surf. I want to ride my dirt bike or whatever it is. Like I got other things to do, like hang out with my family. So
I like that.
I like that
approach.
I also like that you don't want to be inspired by other people's stuff, and
I don't want to bite it too much.
You just don't want to see it.
That's a good point. Well, this is a good segue for you know what, buds.
Name that video part.
All right, since you've edited 7,800 videos, we picked three. We got three Name That Video parts. I think they get progressively easier. So, but we'll see. Okay, first one. If you know what it is, let us know. What's your confidence level 0 through 10
on remembering what video part it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, not super high.
Give us a number.
1 through 10, maybe like 20%.
2. That's a 2.
That's a 2.
Okay.
All right, 2. Here we go.
Well, it's what's that? It's No Use for a Name for sure. Believe it's Up in the Ante intro.
Yes, it is. Yes. Okay, 1 for 1.
Bam.
1 for 1. Okay.
And by the way, No Use for a Name is insane. And I heard they're just putting out right now on Fat Wreck Chords a whole like compilation type of thing, box set. So go check that out at Fat Wreck Chords.
Awesome.
Amazing. Okay. Next one. See how he does.
This ain't the way it's supposed to be. There's a dark cloud following me. I'm disillusioned. I'm down on the world again.
Well, I know it's Social Distortion. Is it Peter Line possibly?
Yep.
Decade.
Yep. There it is.
This guy's good.
Okay, he's good. He comes in like he doesn't know, but he knows. It's okay. All right. Last one. It's for him to go 3 for 3. For Name That Video part.
Can he do it?
Can he do it?
It's a JP part, right?
That's correct.
What movie is it though?
Second thing I thought is I could never think like that again.
Shakedown, right?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
All right, you got yourself a prize pack here from us at the Bomb Hole. You got it comes in a Yeti bag.
Sick.
So you can take that thing down to the beach. Shout out to the good folks at Yeti for hooking us up with that. And then we also threw some Slow Tide towels in there. So Slow Tide makes towels, blankets. They got all kinds of cool stuff. If you're looking for a gift, you can head on over to slowtide.co. They have, I think we might have a promo code too. I think if you use promo code BOMBHOLE, you might get a discount.
Maybe.
I'm almost positive about that. And also we got Bombhole branded Slow Tide towels. Yep. So shout out to Slow Tide for hooking us up.
Yep.
If you want one of those, you can hit up bombhole.com. We got you.
All kinds of cool stuff in here.
Yeah,
we
got too bad I'll never see it because my daughter will steal this stuff before it gets like one step in the door. But it's nice to have it for.
She'll just walk away with that whole bag, basically.
Straight up.
Yeah.
If I get stuff, if I get stuff, even before it makes it home, if I take a picture of something someone gave me, she's like, "That's mine."
That's mine.
Nice. All right, and we're going to do our Name That Video part for you guys, the listeners, the audience, the viewers. Basically, how this works is if you know what song this is in the video, you comment on Instagram on the photo of Dawger when it comes out. First one to comment gets what, Buds?
You're going to get a prize pack courtesy of the Bomb Hole.
Courtesy of the B-hole. Okay, here we go.
Can I say belly?
That is the actual cinematic movie that is the original, I believe.
Do I get a prize pack?
Yes, Buds. We're going to give you 3 stickers, 3 Bomb Hole stickers.
Yes.
Okay, thank you guys for playing. Name That Video part, huh, Buds? All right, we're going to take a quick break and talk to you guys about Liquid Death. Now, big news, they got flavors now, Buds.
Yeah, like 3 flavors.
Are you a OG Bubbles or you flavor?
You know, I was the OG still. I like the still water, but lately the flavor's been growing on me. The lime, the berry, the mango, love them all.
We've got them by the pallet over here, and if you haven't seen a Liquid Death can, it looks like a beer. So
a tall boy, right?
It looks like a tall boy. So if you see us out in front of the office, it looks like we're getting absolutely obliterated at like 8 a.m.
Yep.
We're actually just drinking water. And that's what's great about Liquid Death. You can drink it in your car. It looks like you're a raging alcoholic driving around.
You see a pregnant lady with one of these tall boys? She is not doing anything wrong. She's just drinking some water.
She's not being negligent. She's actually getting hydrated. So if you're interested in picking up some Liquid Death, head on over to liquiddeath.com/bombhole. Again, liquiddeath.com/bombhole. You can be chugging Licky D before you know it. You can also find it at Whole Foods, 7-Eleven, Target, Albertsons, Safeway, or Amazon.
You know, fun fact, do you know why they call it Liquid Death?
Why is that, Buds?
Because it murders your thirst.
That is a fun little fact. So we just did Name That Video part. And, you know, music in videos is really important. You know, before I even get into that, we have a guest question from Gunny about what I'm talking about right now. Let's get into it.
Year, Mack Dawg created careers, probably broke some careers too, and basically was the soundtrack for snowboarding to me, and I'm sure millions of others for so many years, for decades, literally decades. So my question to you is this, Mike McEntire. How did you pick the songs? How did you work with the artists? How did you work with the riders to figure out what songs would go with their parts? I mean, this is important stuff, right? I believe Bombhole even has a segment called Name That Video Part, which is entirely based on picking the video part based on the song that you hear. And how many of your own videos can you name, parts that is, by the song themselves? I even remember Trevor Andrew once saying that he wished you would release every Mack Dawg movie soundtrack alone because it was so monumental to the
people, let's say.
To the people. I don't even not know what happened, he got cut off there, but I think you kind of get the gist of the question.
Got the idea. And Gunny. Yep, good old Gunny, my brother-in-law. I don't know if you guys know it, but
oh, that's right.
We're brother-in-laws.
Yeah, I just learned that recently.
My wife and his wife are twin sisters.
Wow.
Gunny actually, and Jen, Gunny's wife, facilitated Catherine and I getting together when we were kicking and screaming. That was like, anyways, that's a side note, but it eventually worked out. They knew what they were doing. and we ended up getting married and having a kid, and yeah, we're family. So so he's throwing the hard questions at the family member here. I see how it goes.
I have to take a sidebar. I trimmed up Gunny's question because it was like 2 minutes long. So, but I didn't trim the end, so I apologize. But you get the gist of the question.
Yeah. So okay. So how did I pick the songs for the soundtracks? Okay. At the beginning, it's a long answer, but in the beginning, zero money. How did it go? Go to shows. I went to shows all the time. I lived in San Francisco Bay Area, and it's like the music hotbed, and all these insane bands every night playing in all these little dive bars, and go in there like, oh, that was sick. Okay, go up to the band right after they're done. You guys got a tape or anything? Yeah, we do have a tape. Hey, I'm making a snowboard movie. Do you guys want to be in it? Yeah, let's do this. All right. And so that's how it kind of worked. It was just like very basic. Go to the show, like band, get song. And, like a lot of them did it for free, and that was it, And as things progressed throughout the years, we started having to do more stuff with like contracts and stuff like that. And my sister, Leslie, actually helped me with the business at the beginning. And then a lady named Liberty O'Toole, she took over for a little while, and she started working with like Fat Records and getting some stuff for those guys. And then Lori Vincent, who at this point is the kingpin of getting music for action sports films. She worked for me for many, many years, and she did magical things. Like, how do you get stuff like she did? I have no idea. We're just like, we should get Metallica. We should get the Rolling Stones. Let's get this or that. And Lori would do it. And we're just like, shocking. Like, I don't know how she pulled that stuff off, but she did so good at it that after like we were done with the movies, everyone's just hitting her up like, I need you to clear some songs like that for my movie. And so she made a business out of it called Contract Sound, and she kills it. But anyways, that's kind of the story of how we did it. And then how we picked the songs. It's all about the feeling, you know what I mean? It's like it's like a little recipe, a menu. You got to like throw the stuff in there like, oh, this guy's going to work really good with this style of music, And then there's also kind of like the flow of a film. Like, like you want to hit it hard at the beginning and kind of build like a big gnarly peak at the beginning, and then, let it go down for just a second, then hit it hard again, and, kind of do these little peaks and valleys with emotions, and music has a big part of that. It drives it. It gives you a chance to relax. It brings it back. And, like the old formula of like the gnarly montage, the second best part is the first part in the video. So you throw the hooks in hard. So people are going to watch this thing. Then you can kind of let it kind of mellow out, like kind of some of the in-between parts. And then, of course, the ender like has to be a big song and the best part in the video. That's kind of like 101 action sport film thing, So we just kind of stuck with that.
I love seeing the breakdown, your psychology on it, and I do have to say the soundtracks have been so great over the years, and I don't think they're as good as they used to be. Not to be that like old guy, like, oh, they don't make them like they used to, but when you look at even just what we've listened to on here, you have just name that video part. You have Annie Up for JP, and then you have you got No Effects. You got like I Don't Give a Damn About My Reputation. You like that all the songs, like it was such a blend of like awesome punk and then good rap and then fast metal. And I don't know, for me, it just driving around listening to those soundtracks like shaped what we listened to. It was like the soundtrack of our lives. It was really really important, I think.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. And I'll tell you, one of the cooler ones that we got was a Foo Fighters song, and Everlong, and we got that for $1. And Tina
helped you out.
was going out with Dave at that point, right? And Tina Bassich was going out with Dave Grohl, and I was like, Tina, what do you think about putting in a good word for us over there? And so she did, and we wanted that song, and so yeah, Dave's like, you guys can use it for free.
Yeah, Dave was so cool.
Yeah, and then the label was like, really, Dave? So they had to make a contract for $1 because it had to be like an official contract. So we paid $1. Thank you, Dave Grohl, and thank you, Tina, for that. That was just
Dude, I bet
insane.
it's not easy because there's so many other people involved to be like, you can have this for free, you know?
It's not very easy to do
like
at all.
he probably had to go through some serious red tape to make that happen.
I think it was easier back then.
Yeah.
And, you know, like and it's a parallel universe between music and action sports film type of thing where at one point, like, you know, you go and you buy your record or you go and you buy your VHS and it's pretty hard to copy that, right? You could possibly do it, but it's not as good type of thing. And as time went on, like it's super easy. Like you can copy it. It's the same quality, you know?
Yeah.
And so then both of those industries started having a downturn in sales because there's so much piracy.
Too much bootlegging.
And so now, like, it's way harder to get a big track because people are like, we need to make money, like more because we lost so much on this. So it's way more challenging to get a big soundtrack now. And the contracts are a lot gnarlier. So maybe that's your point of like the old movies having a little bit heavier soundtracks. It was, you know, just part of the timing of, you know, it was available. Like they would do it. Like you could get a Rolling Stones or Blondie or whatever it was for, you know, it was a lot of money, but it was doable. You know, nowadays it's way different.
Yeah, I love that. That Foo Fighters song, I believe I know you guys use one in Technical Difficulties.
On what song? It's like a big medley part. Is it Technical Difficulties?
There's Foo Fighters in a couple of different Dawger films.
I think it's might be Technical Difficulties or Simple Pleasures. I can't remember.
Yep.
But anyways, yeah.
That era's those videos, kind of Simple Pleasures, Decade, Technical Difficulties is kind of the next wave of videos before just the Forum videos. I like that. That block of time was really important to me as a kid.
Yeah.
It's like those ones are special.
I have a Patreon question about all these videos.
Yeah, do it.
This is from Benjamin Weisner. What film are you most proud of and why?
Well, Benjamin. Yeah, good one. Jeez. I don't even know. Like I still like Hard, the Hungry, and the Homeless just because of the feeling that I get when I watch it. And I remember how much fun I was having and how much fun everyone was having and just how raw it was. So for me, it just touches my heart more probably than the other ones just because that's when we are all kind of finding something that was so new and cool and just it was just an insane situation. So
you didn't have 100 sponsors on your back, like making sure it all worked out. It was just you guys making cool stuff happen.
Yeah.
I'd imagine, you know.
That's pretty fun stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, was it the best film? No, probably not, you know.
Hey,
but
we're still talking about it all these years later.
But it to me, like when I watch it and like the intro and just the whole thing just gets me stoked. So that's the whole point of it.
And I think it got a lot of people to maybe not go to college or drop out of school and move west.
Could be.
Like the guy sitting to my right,
Like
right
me
here.
right here.
So another thing I want to ask is in regards to people that want to get into filmmaking or want to make a snowboard video, do you have any advice for them?
I mean, I do have advice for people that are starting out and want to get into it. And I would have to say one of the main things that I see that's annoying to me is people just handhold everything and they shoot a lot of wide stuff and they don't really mix it up that much. So that's annoying to me. I like to see a variety of stuff. I think you need to have a variety of types of shots, and you need to have, you know, a variety of riders, like different styles of riding and different approaches to it and different music. You need to kind of make something that moves and keeps your interest. You know, you can't just have the same type of shot and the same type of riding and all that. Like it's all like, it's like a recipe, you know, you just have to kind of keep tinkering with it until you get something that's tasty all the way through. Then you're good. But I'd say for a kid getting into it, I would get a fluid head tripod, get something solid that gives you a nice smooth shot, learn how to use that, you know, and then, you know, you can get your wide stuff all day long. That's easy handheld, but learn how to shoot actually like a proper cinematic looking shot.
How do you feel when the long lens kids are just going handheld with it?
Oh, the long lens footage. I mean, that's been going on forever. Look at Whitey's films.
Yeah.
I mean, Whitey would never use a tripod, and like everyone loved his movies. He had great action, amazing soundtracks,
Yeah, good music.
really good music, and a really good filmmaker. And that was his style. But to me, I couldn't handle that because I want to see those shots, in particular that you're calling out, on a tripod. I want to see that clean. But that wasn't his vibe. So it worked for him what he did.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? That's been going on forever. I don't like that, dude. I like to see, if it's a long shot, I want to see it a clean, killer, cinematic, beautiful shot, you know?
And where's your heads at with dollies?
I mean, anything that adds to the shot is great. Anything that is just there to look cool, but it doesn't really add anything, is just doesn't really resonate, you know? So I feel like in certain of our films, there was an abuse of dolly work and trying to make shots like more than, I don't know, just too much of that, right? It's when Kramer was doing some directing and Jaakko and the kid from Finland, he was really into it. And he's like, we got to get movement on everything. And like, it's cool. Like the movie looked rad. Like picture this when it came out, but it was kind of a little bit too much. So I think everything, it's kind of like a tool. Everything in filmmaking, you have all these tools. So use the tool properly and then use a lot of tools. Don't just use the same tools. And then you can make a really cool looking place, you know, like a cool house with your tools. Like it's kind of like a carpenter, you know, like, and you don't need much. Like a good carpenter can, with a hammer, a screwdriver, and a saw, and a couple nails and some screws, like you can make a house. You know, you don't need all this fancy stuff. The other stuff just like adding a little spice here and there, but you don't need it. So I think people abuse stuff a lot.
Yeah, you can overuse stuff easy.
Easy.
You ever watch Wes Anderson's films?
Sometimes. No, I'm not like
that guy can use a dolly properly, if you ask me. But yeah,
what do you think about our tripods and lighting and microphones we're using on this set?
This one has cement on it.
Okay,
one of them's
so I was out at Peace Park this year, helping Danny like with the crew and just kind of doing some stuff. And Bombhole came out to Peace Park, and I'd never actually seen your guys' set, and it was an impromptu set at Bachelor, and I was pretty shocked and appalled actually. I'm not gonna lie. Like, look at this. Look at this mic placement. I mean,
it's like a big metal arm.
Like there's an arm casting shadow. The lights are too high. We got all of us have hat shadow. The lights all have different color.
And we're all wearing
looks
hats.
like
that's on brand. That's on brand.
I would have to say, it's your guys' vibe, and that's what it's all about. Like, it totally works for your guys' thing. Like me, like I went into your guys' set. You remember? I'm like, let me move this mic and make it better. And you guys, what are you doing with my mic? I'm like, sorry, dude. I apologize for that, but like, I come from a different like way of looking at it.
I love it,
and I was just like,
we learned
we'd be much better if we listened to you.
Yeah.
But we're
dude, it works for you guys. You guys are killing it, and
thank you.
I mean, you guys have your vibe, and why change it just because what someone else says?
Mack Dawg's little blurb on the bomb hole: shocked and appalled.
Well, we do. Let's do a little. You should give us some notes after this. Maybe we can find some improvements. But moving along, we got a bunch of stuff to talk about, and I really want to talk about the evolution of filmmaking. So, obviously you start with your Super 8, you move to your 16, which I think little sidebar is really cool. They used it to film World War II with those cameras. And I want you to talk about the pros and cons of as it evolved from, to VHSs, to DVDs, to the internet, how it changed and for better or worse and where we're at with all that stuff. Well,
it's obviously way bigger now. Like the platform is worldwide instantly. Like that's a plus. So that's super cool. The democratization of image quality is also there. Like all cameras, including like your phone, are good enough. Like it's a good quality shot. Like it looks good. It's good enough. People actually resonate more a lot of times on a shot on a phone than they would on any other camera. Like they're so used to it. It's like So that part is good. Stuff looks good, and it can get out there to a lot of people. Now, the other parts of it are a little bit more unfortunate, like some of the things that I really, really don't like about filmmaking, and kind of where everything's at is we started out, TVs were 4x3, right? So we have these kind of cameras, like the film cameras, they're shooting in a 4x3 aspect ratio, which is basically like a shape like this, right? And then we moved on, started getting into HD televisions, and that kind of dictated the cameras, right? So those were like 16:9. So it's a little bit more of this sort of a shape, a wider shape. And this 4x3 lends itself really good to stuff coming at you more or less, right? Like a cliff drop or if you're just slightly at the bottom of a rail, but you're not like side profile, it looks great. It fits in the frame. Everything looks great. When you go to 16:9, then and it worked good for snowboarding too, because things got bigger, like at that point, things were getting a lot bigger. So the jumps were really big. The rails were really big. So you're catching a side angle. That 16:9 frame that's super wide is super good for the actual sport. It makes it look great. Now with social and like all these people saying, oh, this is an algorithm. Like if there's like all these people that say, like, if you're looking at your phone like this, flipping through your Instagram or whatever your social thing is, if you have to do this to look at it 16:9, you're out. Like a lot of people are out. They'll just move on to the next thing. So now you're getting all these people that are producing content for a 9x16, which is the shape of this phone. And what does that fit for sports? You know what I mean? Like it's a little sliver. Like, what are you going to shoot that looks good for that? A cliff drop that's super big, that's coming straight at you. You know what I mean? That's the frame for that. Anything that's a big shot, like a rail or whatever, or a big jump. I shoot a lot of moto. I actually shoot daredevil stuff too, like really, really big stuff, like 400+ foot jumps. Does a little sliver work? It does not work at all. And so, like, I have a really big problem with that as a filmmaker and as a person who cares about the actual sports. It makes the sport look terrible. And so, like, I've had conversations with all kinds of people, like at ESPN and then like whoever I'm working for, that's calling out these things that they want. I'm like, you're not even making the sport look good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Like, we're trying to, the whole idea of it is you want people to be engaged and to be stoked. And if you can't even see what's coming up, like if you shoot a 16:9 shot, you have, like, if you use a rule of thirds, a person's in the back third and they're going this direction, you're riding with them. You see what's in front and you're engaged with it, and you can see what's coming up, and you could see, like, oh shit, look at that. It's a triple kink or whatever it is. You know what I mean? You can, instead of just seeing this little sliver and seeing them go through it, you're actually experiencing it with the person. And so it's a total miss, like, as far as I'm concerned. And it's a total bummer. I don't know if it'll ever come back, but what I actually foresee is that it won't. And I foresee, like, cameras like this, like I use this red camera a lot. It's my main camera and it shoots 16:9, but I could see cameras like this, big cinema cameras with a 9x16, like turn the sensor, because that's what everyone wants to see. And maybe televisions will be like that. I don't know. It's totally annoying, but most people do consume their material on a phone, so
there's even wider TVs now too, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen some
or
of those?
analytics though, like you're saying, it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's 80% of the people on YouTube are watching on a phone or something like that.
Yeah.
And their analytics, like, like I don't follow this too much, but like when I get hired by people, like say like a Red Bull or something, and they want their social needs, are like, this is what we want. We have done all this analysis, and if someone has to turn their phone, they're out. So this is the way it is. You're shooting like this. So in my frame lines, when I'm shooting nowadays, it's a 16:9 camera, but I mark out with like little frame guides on my monitor, like this little slice in the middle that I'm like, I have to be aware of that. Like, I can't let a person travel through a frame anymore. Like,
Yes, you have to try to shoot more straight on.
We just have to keep them in that zone. Otherwise, you have to kind of reframe it in editing, and that always looks bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to kind of like...
Also, the other sidebar too, what you're talking about is if you have this nice red camera and you're shooting this high definition clip, it's cinematographic, whatever the word is, and then it's watching on a phone.
Exactly.
Like, what's the point?
That's what I'm saying. The democratization of image quality. It's so good now that this is amazing camera. There's no doubt about it. Like Jim Gennard, who he owned Oakley. He actually made this camera. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
This is a crazy story. So Jim Gennard, he was owned Oakley, did all that stuff. He since sold it or whatever, but he was a super crazy camera nerd, like way beyond me, like super into it. And he's off, pretty well off. So he had pretty much every good camera that ever was, like all the notable still cameras, all the notable film cameras, motion picture cameras, all the video cameras in this vault at Oakley, all these cameras. And his idea was he wanted to make a camera that would do everything, that you could take stills with. It could be like as good as any of the other motion picture cameras. And so he started talking about it, and everyone's like, "You're crazy, dude." And he's like, "I'm going to do it." And, like if you guys want in, it's, you got to put $1,000 down right now. And he'd sponsor my films forever. And he's like a Midas man. There's people like that, that whatever they do, it works. Like, I'm putting my money down on this. Hopefully it works. Right. And put my money down. I got my camera, and he totally did it. He made a 4K camera. It was $17,500. And it just totally changed everything. Instead of like being like in Hollywood, oh, we're shooting on film. This camera costs like $100,000, and you're going to spend like 150, 200 grand on film to make it, just to buy the film and do it. Like, you're already in like who knows what, like $500,000 to even start going. Well, you could take that camera you made, $17,500, and get quality that was comparable. And that's like kind of what really started changing everything. And it made like a big impact. Like, we started buying those cameras, and I went into doing freelance stuff and did a ton of commercial work with a red camera, and it worked really good. But now, like, everyone else is kind of catching up. I mean, they still make some of the best cameras ever, but like you said, like, is it worth it for the social stuff? Maybe not, for stuff that's like, if I'm going to go make a movie and spend like half a year doing it, and I want to have the best quality shots, and it's totally worth it. If I'm shooting a commercial and it's like high end and I want it to look as good as possible, of course it's worth it. You know what I mean? Like, you can do more with a better tool, obviously. But like for snowboarding, what I see, like, and I see on the internet most of the time, like on the Instagram stuff everyone posts, it's like GoPro or iPhone stuff all the time. Does it look good? Yeah, it looks fine. Like, that's fine.
I love it. I wanted to ask you one question about shooting film versus shooting digital. What do you like more?
I mean, film is tough. It's really hard to shoot. Like, you have to expose it. You can't just be like, put the monitor on the digital camera and look at it, like have a waveform there and be like, oh, here's my exposure. I'll just change a few things and be good. Like, you have like on a camera like this, I can look at waveforms. I can look at all kinds of exposure tools and make sure my exposure is dead on. I can use focus assist tools and make sure I'm totally sharp. And you know what I mean? You can do all that stuff. You put in the frames per second you want. And it's exactly that. Like, you get into a camera like this and it's all manual. Like, you have to take out a light meter.
Which you brought, huh?
Which you don't, if you don't have a light meter and you're not reading how much actual light is in your scene, you can't even expose the film. Every film has like a different sensitivity. So you have to know the sensitivity of your film. You have to take a reading. You have to know how to, interpret it, and for your scene, see the light, and then expose it properly. Shooting on something like a Super 8, like, it has the like terrible latitude, which means how much is in the whole image from white to black, how many like gradients there are in between. This maybe has like 5 or 6 or something. It's really hard. You have to nail your exposure. This is a lot better. And these things have surpassed film, like as far as that goes. So it's way easier to shoot. The look you can get from film is totally different though. You have that organic grain. You have, you have all the kind of weird light leaky stuff that comes if you're at the beginning and end, people seem to love so much, all that sort of thing. So it's totally different. What do I prefer shooting on? No one pays for me to shoot on film ever. Like no one, like I freelance for the last, 10, 12 years. No one's been like, oh, can you shoot on 16 or Super 16 or Super 8? No, it's all like, bring the red. We're good. So, I mean,
the red will almost get you jobs, right?
Well,
it just seems that way
nowadays. Like it's just a standard, you know what I mean? But I'm going to shoot a lot of Super 8 when we get this whole Forum thing going again for sure. And it just looks so cool and it brings such a good vibe. It's really good for portraits and for some stuff too, especially with that original depth lens, like it looks insane. So I'd like to do that and bring back some 16 and stuff like that. I know people are doing it. I've heard like Vans did some films all in film again. And Greg Hunt, he's a really good friend of mine. He's just always shot on film, I think. So he never left off that. So
yeah,
props to him for being strong all the way through. But yeah, I mean, it's just hard. You have to pay a lot of money for it too. Like a side note, like when we did those big movies back in like that you were talking about, like say like a Resistance or something like that Kearns directed, we would spend like $100,000 on film. That was part of the budget. You know what I mean? Like $100,000 for film and processing.
Big expense.
Yeah. And then shooting on digital, you have none of that. So it's something to consider, right?
It's harder to blow a shot in Digi too. You can like adjust everything,
There's a lot of latitude and you're looking at it.
Yeah.
And you can look at the shot directly after you shoot it. You can analyze it. Everyone can weigh in. Is it good enough? Like all that sort of stuff. So it does make things pretty nice in that regard.
Yeah.
One part I'm going to interrupt though, part of that's really exciting that doesn't make sense logically, but one of the beauties of film is when you get a rollback and you sit there and you're like, here we go. Play. I hope this looks good. That's
all that anticipation.
Yeah, that's pretty. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's
no one has
totally
to do
unnecessary. Totally unnecessary, but awesome.
It looks cool though. It's different, Like I don't know. We watched Breaking Bad a long time ago, but my wife and I started watching it again the other day, and I was like, I forgot it was shot on film, and then instantly I was like, oh, this looks so good. Like it's just so
timeless.
It just has that beautiful grain and just the way that the light works and the way that the highlights roll off. It's just amazing. Yeah.
I have a quick Patreon question for you. This is from Daniel Jensen. In 2022, the era of attention spans shorter than goldfish and biscuits fewer and farther between, what would an MDP production look like?
Good question. I have no idea. Like that analysis of what people are going to react to, that's totally weird to even conceptualize that. I don't know. Like I haven't spent enough time like putting stuff out to even know recently, And I agree with that question. People's attention span is very short.
It's a whole different world, right?
It is. I'm not, and that's why I'm saying like moving forward, doing stuff with the Forum things.
That's when we might be able to see what it's going to be like. Huh?
Yeah, and then I'm like I was saying earlier, like I'm gonna bring in kids, and they can be my apprentice. I'll teach them how to be filmmakers, but give them the tools and the skills, but it's their world.
And then send them out there.
Yeah, it's their world. You know what I mean? It's not my world. Like I can show them a lot, but I'll get out there and shoot too. Like I love shooting. There's no doubt about it. Like every chance I get, I'm out there,
That'll be fun. Those kids are going to be hyped.
Love that. Now, a couple things I want to bring up. Rail Liberation Unit.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those fun things that we did back in the day. I mean, Rail Liberation Unit is liberating rails that were knobbed, basically, And so we went around. It was me, JP, and Seth for the most part, were the main crew, but a lot of people got into it too. But yeah, I mean, we kind of adopted this like motto, like, yeah, you guys can knob it up, but we're just going to take them off anyways, you know? So we would go around town, a lot in Salt Lake here, and we would put on our work suits. We kind of figured out if you put on a hard hat and you put on the vest and the work boots and the work glasses, we could go straight up in front of an office building where people are sitting there drinking their coffee, doing their emails, put cones up, put up a rope around their rail. They're looking at you, grind the stuff off, hit it up. We'd get the right spray paint it so it looked all killer, pack up the stuff and leave and come back that night and hit the rail. And that, like being in broad daylight and no one thinks it's suspicious.
And no one said a word to you, huh?
Yeah. And so it totally worked. And that kind of like went over into a lot of different, I see people do it all the time. And since then, like you always see people in the work vest and
the hard hat work.
And it totally worked.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that we kind of started, and then it kind of like worked. Like snowmobiles. Like I remember when we first got into snowmobiling, like I was like, well, man, like the car worked. We got it up the hill, but what about a snowmobile? You see the guys at the resort, like let's try that out. So on my first sleds that I bought, there was like a 340 and a 440 with like a 1/4-inch track, 120s. So they couldn't go anywhere except for on track. I'm serious. Like they couldn't go anywhere except for on the resort. Mm-hmm. So we would just like drive it to like Brighton or Colorado or whatever after it was closed and drive up there and film stuff. And stay on the cat tracks basically because you couldn't go anywhere else.
That's all they were good for.
Still better than hiking. Nowadays they got 3.5-inch paddles. And think about 1/4-inch.
1/4-inch. Yeah. I like how you said it's better than the car.
So another thing too, talking about the kind of rail liberation unit is, I know that you had some stories of kind of evading police, using radios, cameras in the trash, things like that.
Oh, I mean, I know what you're getting at. Like the whole idea, right, is to not get caught for doing stuff. And I don't know how to say this, but it is somewhat disrespectful. And I can see the other side of it, why people will be bummed. Like if you go and you're sessioning on someone's building or something like that. A public park, not so much, but like someone's property, it's looking back, it's kind of not that cool. It doesn't really do that much damage, like a snowboard or something like that. It really doesn't. But yeah, so it got really heated in the valley here in Salt Lake at one point I would just run always with a scanner in my ear so that like I'm listening to the police chatter, and like if someone's calling in, hey, there's some kids hitting a rail over and blah, 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 and pack it up. We're out here, and we just drive off and the cops would be pulling in. So we'd always do that. That was a no brainer because you just get on.
That's crazy. I never did that.
And none of us ever done that. See, you guys are still ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And
you would literally hear the call come in.
Yeah. And then, like other stuff, like I was always older than the guys, right? So I could get away with this all the time because I'm not in snowboard boots. I'm like in like Sorels or work boots, just warm boots. So like if the cops actually did come in, like we didn't hear a call or whatever, and we could see, okay, it's going to be a bus, I would always just walk my camera, like hide my camera, walk to like the nearest trash can in the area, put my camera in the trash can, and then just go like I'm going for a walk and just walk right by the police officer. And
yeah, you don't know these guys.
I have no idea who they are, right? I never got a ticket once ever. And we did a lot of stuff.
Wild.
Oh, I should have tried that.
And then, after you leave, just walk back and get the camera out.
Get the camera.
Well, Buds, he wasn't wearing Tech 9 gear down to his knees and looking like an absolute problem out there.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing too we got to talk about is the storage unit. It got to the point where you guys had a storage unit in Minneapolis.
Yeah, there was just the tools that we needed. Like Kurt Heine made like a what do you call it?
A winch.
An engineering feat was the first thing that he made that was ridiculous. Was a drop-in ramp.
Drop-in ramp, yeah.
A drop-in ramp that fit into a board bag. So it's like a Lego set, basically, like a erector set. It totally broke down and fit in a board bag. And then you like show up at the spot, open it up. It took maybe like half an hour to put it together, but you had a legit drop-in ramp you could bring anywhere in the world. It's kind of a pain to reset it up. And, you know, we would always, we spent a lot of time in Minnesota. There was a lot of rails. And so at one point we're like, this is ridiculous, flying this stuff all the time, having to go and rent a generator and bring lights and stands and all the stuff that we had. So we would just had a storage unit, drop-in ramps ready to go, the generator sitting right there, all the lights, all the stands, everything you need to do like a session, all the shovels, anything like the flamethrowers, melt ice, just everything there. And like if you bought a bunch of salt or whatever for a trip before, and just leave it in there and it's already ready to go the next time. So rent a pickup truck, go straight to the storage unit, back up, throw stuff in, go straight to the spot. Like you could be riding within like 30 minutes of landing at the airport, as opposed to, you know, the other side of it, just like trying to get all that stuff together. And so, and we were making, like I said, there was money being made. So
it didn't matter paying the rent.
It wasn't that much. That thing got rented for like 10 years straight.
10 years.
Or maybe more. Cause after we stopped doing the snowboard films, the guys from Burton, like Eels and Gabe LaRue and those guys, they were like, well, what are you going to do about that storage unit? And I'm like, you guys keep renting it. Like Jeremy, I think, took it over for a while. Seth, I don't know. Like a lot of people had that thing cool. In their quiver. And it wasn't that much money. It's like $60 a month or something.
Beats shipping in a winch or something.
Yeah.
I got to ask, Dawger, one thing I noticed over the years is you were never really in front of the camera. Like you never knew who Mack Dawg was, it seemed like, from all the videos growing up. Was that an intentional move?
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite movies is Wizard of Oz, if that says anything. You know what I mean? Just
you're the man behind the curtain.
Yeah. I mean, what's the point? Like, I'm not the star. Like, I just want to make people look good, but I don't need to get any glory out of it. That was never my intention. You know?
You didn't throw yourself.
I don't even like to go on those big, like when Forum was going crazy, like the big tour, like, oh, let's go tour the film. And like everyone would go get partied out and do. I'm like, I'll pass. I'll go surf. Like, I'm fine. You know,
no credit shots or anything though.
That was occasionally. There's some cameos in there, but that, you know, like as things went on, like those films in particular, like Kearns, he did the 2 Forum films. He directed them, so go for it, dude. Like
he'd slip you in there.
No, he liked to go on those tours and do stuff.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So it's whatever you're into.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, this is a unique experience to be doing this.
Talking and about you.
Yeah, it's not, I don't do this. And I know you guys have asked me for a long time to do it, but finally cracked. So
finally cracked. We got him.
Well, we're happy to have you in here. I think it's important, just while we got everybody here, just historically, to run over the list of projects that you've done, and some of the years overlap. But in 1988, you made your first film, which is Sick Boys. And then that was a skate video. And then you went into snowboarding, 1990, which is New Kids on the Twock. Next year, Pocahontas. Next year,
you left out Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus.
Oh, Hocus Pocus, not on here.
That's when I worked on with the late Mike Chernansky. And I actually learned a lot from Mike Chernansky. Like, out of all the people that I worked with, like, you learn something from everyone, but I learned a lot from Mike Chernansky. So he showed me a lot of things about, he was one of the original, like, Axemen dudes. He was super gnarly, really gnarly. And
that was a really prolific skate movie at its time, right?
It was a really, really, really good team.
Yeah.
We shot a ton of footage and the edit was brutal. Like, so after I broke my arm during that, see that big scar right there? Mm-hmm. Broke that snowboarding right in the middle of the edit and I had to get a surgery. And I remember I came back from that trip, my arm was all messed up and got the surgery and went straight to the edit suite with no painkillers. And just like, I was so like enraged in pain that, or like, cut that shot.
That's because of your mood.
No, like it was like,
so edgy.
It worked super good.
Yeah.
Chernansky was all stoked.
Got it.
But yeah, I learned a lot from
had you been on painkillers, that's good, man. Just
exactly.
Let it ride. That's fine, man.
Yeah. That's totally true.
That's true.
Like
I think it's cool his arm goes down, man.
Just angry? No, out now. Get that out of here now.
Yeah, like literally and excruciating pain, hating everything.
Amazing.
Made a good edit though.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm going to keep running through these. Then you have HHH, Hard, Hungry, and Homeless in 1992, Upping the Ante, TB4, Run to the Hills. And there's also some other like TB videos in here as well.
2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4. Yep. One thing we didn't talk about, Transworld Video Mag 1 through 4.
Yep.
Those were really cool kind of day in the like it was a little bit more than just a video. You got to know the people. Stomping Ground, Simple Pleasures, Decade, Technical Difficulties, Amp, Resistance, Stand and Deliver, True Life, Nixon Jib Fest, Pulse, Game Show, Shakedown, Chulk Smack, From NDP with Love, Jibbing with Jeremy Jones, Follow Me Around, Jumping with UC, People, Picture This, We're People 2, Double Decade, Down with People. That is a freak. And then you went on to do the post-production stuff, which we'll get into, but
It was From MDP with Love?
From Blank with
Yeah, it was
Love.
from Blank.
And
right?
then also you forgot the On the Pipe series. I did the full moto series with Jay Schweitzer, he was a guy that was an intern for us, and then he went on to do moto stuff and hit me up to help him make some moto films. So we did 6 films together, On the Pipe 1 through 6. That was a lot of fun too. Yeah.
And-
I want to take this moment. Like, that's a big list, right? That's a really big list. At the beginning, it was me and Mike King, maybe, like helping with the edit. But from that point on, from the first couple films, the crew grew and grew and grew and grew. I'm talking the filming crew. And sure, that's a huge list, but there's a huge amount of people, of incredible filmmakers that worked with me during the course of that. I mean, to sit here and name names, it's going to take like 20, 30 minutes or something. But it's not just, Mack Dawg Productions was not just me. And that's just my nickname. You know what I mean? It's a chunk of really, really talented people that made all those films happen. And I, even towards the end, after doing so many films and having my own style, my own choices of music, and seeing like I'm getting older, I was like, let's bring some other directors in. Let's get a fresher take on it. Let's let other people kind of give their feeling to it. And like when Kearns came in and did the 2 movies for the Forum years, The True Life and The Resistance, it was insane. Like he totally had his own style. It totally resonated with people. They loved it. Kramer came in, he did some stuff. And then there was all the staples, like, Heine and Ross are my 2 OGs that were in there from the beginning. But all I can say is, like, it was a collaborative effort, and also with all the writers too. Like, it's kind of like, I look at it as kind of, I might have said it earlier, but it's symbiotic, like we're all in this industry and we're all helping each other out. Like, it's kind of like, okay, let's say this writer is a good writer right now. Like, say it's whatever, like Peter or JP, Jeremy, whoever, they got all the juice. Like them being in our film helps them out, helps us out at that point, right? Because we got the big guys. But by the same token, at that same point that they're doing that, we're bringing on the next crew of dudes, let's say whoever it is, like Malmy or someone like that, and Bjorn, who knows what it is. And they're being like involved with our film is helping them out. You know what I mean? And then all of us all together are helping out snowboarding. And then the people that are involved in snowboarding are sponsoring our movies and they're helping us out. So it's like this, it's just like a big symbiotic experience that totally worked in that time frame. That's what made everything work, really, and it was just everybody involved. It's a list that is far too long to thank everyone, but I just want to kind of get that across. Like I'm sitting here telling all these stories, Mack Dawg this, Mack Dawg that. That's just my nickname. Mack Dawg Productions is a lot of different things.
When you did Real Snow, were you a producer? Was that the role?
In Real Snow, I was a director. And my wife, Catherine, was the producer. And so, yeah, we worked on that. It started off, Gunny got that show for us. He's done a lot of crazy stuff for us over the years, from the Jib Fest with Chad Denena and all that, all the way through to, the Woodward stuff. We do a lot of stuff with Gunny on that. But yeah, it was kind of his idea, and he pitched it to ESPN, I believe. They were kind of doing it already, but not as a TV show. And then we're like, yeah, we'll try it. And so we made it. You actually won, Chris, that
This
one
guy's
year.
got a gold medal over
Yeah.
there.
That was great.
And it was a lot of fun. Like, and that was a way that was super, super fun for me to get, like, not be in snowboarding the whole year, but go like, okay, for like 2 months, I'm going to go and dip into all these crews that are like the gnarliest people doing the gnarliest stuff. And I get to dip my toe in for a second. I'm over here just getting some shots on the sideline, build these backstories, and actually see and feel the pulse of snowboarding, but not have to grind it all year long. It was really special. It was super fun. And then Gunny went, after he became working with Woodward more, Sarah and Chris continued on, and we did a bunch more shows with them. And yeah, and then we did the Real Moto shows. We got the Real Moto shows. And so I think we did like 25 TV shows for World of X Games, something like that. And it was a lot of fun. We had a good time.
Talk about pushing progression, you know, geez.
One thing I do want to just take a second and acknowledge you, and I think this is really important for our listeners and something important for me to say, is that what you're doing is when you take snowboarding as a whole and you're taking it and you're giving it to a broader audience, whether it's through snowboard videos, you know, these videos that reached a massive audience through real snow. And so you're taking snowboarding and putting it in front of people that don't maybe already know what it is. And I think the thing that's really important is in the stewardship of our sport, a lot of people that do that can be cornballs. They can make our sport look fucking corny. And I just want to say thank you for over all these years of all these productions we talked about and still what you continue to do for not making our sport look corny.
You're welcome. I don't like corny stuff either. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm picky too, dude. Like, I won't work on projects that are going to be really corny. You know what I mean? Like,
You'll just say no.
I'm choosy about like what I'm going to do. Like, if I direct it and have full control, that's cool. You know, I have done some stuff that, you know, it's a little bit objectionable, but that's the way it goes. You know, you can't ever hit it all out of the park. But like nowadays, like, you know, like what are the things that I really enjoy filming in snowboarding? Like, of course, Peace Park, like go there, and Danny has this incredible vision. He's a visionary. Like, he is like making the right vibe in snowboarding. And so I love to work on that, whatever aspect I can. I've done director of photography on it a couple times. And this last year I just helped put the crew together because I was coming back with a broken ankle and all that. But yeah, that sort of stuff and the real stuff, and, you know, that stuff is a lot more fun, you know, and working with, I guess the way I look at it is I'll do pretty much any project if it's for a good price. Like, I'm a freelancer, like I work for hire. And if the people are good people and it's a good project that's cool and has a good vibe, I'll do it for way less than what I could charge giving my credentials. You know what I mean? Like, if someone comes to me and they're like, hey, we only have this much money, and I look at the project and I'm like, this is sick, I'll do it, you know? And otherwise, like, if it's someone who's like, has tons of money, but it's super corny, I'm like, that's going to cost you. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, it's kind of a sliding scale, you know, like what it is, you know? So I have been, that's been a big thing for me. Like, thanks for noticing that, but it's a big thing to keep it real and try and keep the right thing. Like, all those stories that we told in the Real series, I really try to dig in and like let the people like express themselves, and you get a good feeling and you understand the person. That was the whole point of it, you know?
Mm-hmm. It was really, I really liked the early years of the Real series when like that was really cool because it still continued to. I don't want to devalue it, but like when the moment you could get paid to film a 90-second or 1 minute video part, and they were competing, and you had Lewif Parody and Dan Breezy, and all of us. It took street snowboarding from, you know, it really went leaps and bounds, almost the same ways that street snowboarding did from, you know, Decade to Simple Pleasures to Technical Difficulties. That it was like that kind of rapid progression in those early years.
Well, and it really brought the real vibe of the streets into people's houses, you know, a side that they didn't really see through the videos, you know.
Yeah, that was fun.
Behind the scene vibe.
It was fun, a lot of fun, and I got to see some crazy stuff. Got to hang out with Frank. That dude is
maniac.
Frank Bourgeois.
Yes, Frank he's one of those guys where like you just watch him ride and you're like, okay.
All right. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, it's like so gnarly.
He was built for real.
Yeah, some people are just built for real snow.
Yeah.
He's one of them.
Yeah, other people crumble under the pressure.
Yeah,
There's a lot
can't
of pressure.
handle the pressure. Some people love the pressure.
So one thing, over all the years we talked about, from 88 to 2008, there was an MDP Productions snowboard video pretty much every one of those years. Why did it stop? Why did you stop doing it?
There's a multifaceted answer. So what happened was, at a certain point we were doing DVD releases, and you could copy the DVD, right? So we would put out a movie, and literally it would hit the shops, go on YouTube. It's already on there like an hour later, and there's like 30,000 downloads. Okay, take it down. It's off. Go back on there, and a couple hours later, it's up again. And guess what? There's 30 more thousand downloads. Like, so
You can't stop every
you
bootlegger.
could not stop it. And what it started to do, and it's exactly what happened in music too. The piracy got to the point where people were, it became this weird thing where people think they could get something for free, and they weren't actually supporting the people that were making the content. They're like, oh, I can get this for free. And it's kind of like what every kid does anyways. They always want to, like, it's just human nature. You want stuff for free.
Yeah.
I don't like, it is what it is. Like, so I get it, but it also like really took the numbers down. At that point, I had a gnarly crew, and everyone on that crew was making good money. A bunch of us had families, and, like, these guys, they need to get their wage, but they also want to see that there's a room to make more money in the future. It's like any job, you know what I mean? And I'm looking at sales go down, and I'm just like, dude, everyone's like, kind of like trying to get more. And I'm like, look at the numbers, guys. It's not happening.
Yeah, people want to raise every year, right?
Yeah, well, of course you do. And they do great work, so why wouldn't you, right? And I would want to give it to them if I had it. And we did for years. But anyway, so that was one of the things. It was I could see that it was going downhill. I could also see that, we're coming into a little recession year, and
It wasn't 2008 a recession.
it was bad. And
Stock market crashed.
And I
That
could
was
tell,
like
I was just
another housing thing too.
And I had an inclination that if that happened, that we won't get the sponsorship. And I'm looking at, okay, if we don't have this sponsorship, which we were getting a lot of at that point, that we wouldn't even be able to make the movie. It would be a losing proposition, And so I was like, okay, that's a bad one. My wife and I had our kid, Taryn, and she was born. And I was like, I don't want to be a dad who's gone for like 6 months out of the year or more. I want to raise my kid. Like I was older at the time, and I was like, it's like, I'm going to raise a super sick kid. So
you need to put a lot into that.
I want to put a lot into it. I don't want to be on the road all the time. Like, so it was like, oh, okay. I have all these kind of things that are kind of factoring in. And then I got a call from JP, and JP's like, hey, just thought you might want to know this. Some of the guys who are working for me, I don't want to ruin anyone. A lot of people did good work over the years, but we're basically conspiring to take a bunch of the crew, make their own different film company, and take a bunch of the dudes, and also go after the same sponsors and basically pit me. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, well, that makes it easy.
Wow.
You know what I mean? F you. And then, you know what I mean? Like, this is over with. And, so it kind of was, it was kind of harsh.
What was that crew?
People.
Oh, that was
it
people.
was people. And also it was, the last one was Double Decade, but before that, I think it was Picture This. But anyways, but at that point I was just like, this isn't totally not worth it. Like, I have all these other things I want to do. I'm a filmmaker. I've been stuck in this one little genre forever, and I want to do other things. You know what I mean? I'm like, I've gotten my skills up to a certain level. I could take it to freelance and try different things. Like, already, like, that wasn't a bummer for me. It was a bummer that it ended like that. And then I called those guys out, and I was like, and then, it didn't really work out for them. No one was really going to do it. The sponsors were like, what? But they were getting paid by me at that point. And I was like, guess what? It's over. And they're like, what do you mean? Let's just make another film. I'm not working with you guys ever again.
Yeah.
It's done. Like,
done.
We are done. Don't call me. We're not friends type of thing. And so that's kind of like, and then I've been super lucky my whole life. Everything is just kind of like, here's another, like, this door closed, another one opens. And
yeah, it probably happened for a reason, right? You're probably ready for that, and you needed to evolve past that.
And immediately, like, boom, get a call from Gunny. Hey, Ken Block's coming up to North Star, and he's doing some, like, driving on snow, and, like, it's crew from San Diego's coming up, and they're asking if there's someone who can shoot on. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So then I went and started working with this group called Mad Media from San Diego, and we did a lot of stuff, worked on some gymkhanas and some crazy off-road stuff with those guys. And I just went into like a full different genre and started filming different things and more commercial stuff. And I opened doors into all different avenues of stuff. And so it was super fun. And all those trips were short. It's like, oh, let's go make this sick video. We'll be gone for a week. Come back home, help raise this kid, and make an insane human. So,
yeah, and not be gone for 6 months and come home and be like, hey, I'm here. This is weird. I got to leave again.
So it totally worked.
I love the way life worked out in that way for you. And I happen to have a guest question from your wife, Catherine, who I will say is a boss. And here it is.
Hello, Bombhole Studio. This is Catherine McEntire, Mike's wife. Hey, Mike, I hope you're hanging in there. I know that being in the hot seat's probably not your favorite place to be.
She knows me.
So my question isn't really snowboard related, but I think it really speaks to who you are and to your character. Over the years, you have given our daughter some pretty unique advice. Could you share with the studio some of your favorites?
Yeah, I mean, that, like I just was saying, that's a good question. Good segue. Like, I want to raise a good kid that knows what's up and can make change and do cool shit for the world. So, I mean, one of the first things I taught my daughter was no one's looking out for you. Nobody. You see all this stuff that you can buy, all these things that are around you. None of those people are looking out for you. Most people are only looking out for themselves. The food you can buy, like, is that even something that's food? No, it's something to make money. It's like engineered, weird crap, basically, that it will kill you. It's not even like, and it's for sale, and people think it's good. Like you need to analyze what is going on. You need to pay attention what's happening in all around you, all aspects of life, and realize that, yeah, we're pretty much like, as humans these days, like, we're like little whatever, like, give us your money, minions. And these like global super companies are just, they'll do whatever for money and destroy everything in sight. And so be aware of that and support the people that are not doing that as much as you can, and just pay attention to what's going on. Like, don't just accept things. Never accept when someone says something. Just be like, really? Let me think about that for a second, like put like critical thinking is a big deal. So she does that really good. Crazy talented, super, super smart, like insane musician, like probably all that, listening to all that crazy stuff in my head over the years. And I got into her DNA like psycho. She's going to be like probably pretty big into horseback riding, really good snowboarder, really good edge control. But she just got into other stuff. Like, she can rip on a board, but never really got into the whole freestyle thing. Just got into horseback riding and super good competitors, wins all this crazy events all the time. So she went in her own path, but that's totally cool. Go where you go, like, we just wanted to open doors. That was our whole thing. Like, here's all these doors. What do you want to do? Like, surf? Here's a surf door. Here's a snowboard door. Here's a music door. Here's whatever, and then just see where they go, And her aunt, Gunny's wife, Jen, opened the horse store, which I was like, seriously? Like, we live 4 blocks from the beach, and we're doing horse things?
That's an expensive endeavor right there, too. Huh?
Exactly, dude. But
horses aren't cheap.
But it's cool. Like that, there's a lot of love there, and there's a lot to be learned from from all that, you know.
And you got to take care of that horse 24/7.
There's a lot of life lessons there. So.
Good parenting lessons, and let them do what they want. And just one thing I just want to lean into that you were just talking about. So you're talking about food and things like that, and you're 60 years old, right? I don't know if you want to say that publicly.
I don't care.
Yeah. So you seem like you're still surfing, you're still riding, you're still doing cool shit. You seem to have a lot of vitality for somebody your age. What is the key to that?
Key to being vital and to being like living a good life. It doesn't matter what age you are. And this is a big deal. Like we are it's simple stuff. Like you have to use your head. You have to be, that's what I teach my daughter, critical thinking. Like we are a bunch of cells. That's all we're composed of cells. Our cells need other types of cells to function at their best. What are we engineered to eat? Like what's our body meant to eat? It's meant to eat foods that come out of the earth as unprocessed as possible in a wide variety of things. Duh. You go to a supermarket and there is a section that is organic fruits and vegetables. That's about all there is in there that you're actually engineered to eat. We're omnivores. Sure, the meat, as long as it's raised properly, is good as well. I'm not a big meat eater. I eat fish, but yeah, it's pretty simple stuff. Like if it's processed, if it's it's just not food. Sorry. And your body doesn't know what to do with it. And it's not surprising that there's so many people that are really sick and obese and just not in good shape. And if you give your body what it needs, then it works properly and you have energy. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, boom, let's go. You know what I mean? So I've been on that program for a long time.
Yeah. How long have you been treating your body like that?
Well, let's say in high school, I was growing wheatgrass in my car in the backseat window and go back into the, lunchtime, go clip off some wheatgrass juice, have a little chew, dude.
So were you just raised then?
No, it was in Marin County and there's a lot of hippies around there and some kids were hippied out and we were kind of like-minded. We're like, oh, this is awesome. Let's do this. So my parents were on a different program altogether. I'm like, can I go to the health food store? I'm going to buy some of this and that and make my own stuff.
They're just like, whatever. Yeah. Do your thing.
Yeah. But yeah.
I saw an interview with a guy who was 110 years old. This is on Instagram. But
110.
110. He said, what's the key? How do you he said, it's one thing, simple, diet. Because I eat clean.
Yeah. And it doesn't work out for everyone. There's...
Is he Japanese?
The people that are...
no, I think he's American. Yeah.
A lot of people, they do have issues, even if they eat super good. And that's environmental. It could just be around you in your environment.
Hereditary too.
Yeah. So, and then hereditary. So a lot of people, if I say that to someone, if I see someone, they're like, if I want to give them some advice and help them out, and then they're like, well, my grandfather or my brother-in-law or whatever, this person ate perfect and they died of cancer at this. Yeah, well, maybe they did. But in the statistically, you eat good. It's simple stuff. Use your brain.
100%.
It's not going to make it worse. That's for sure.
No. And you're going to feel a lot better.
Yeah.
I guess the other way to look at it is you can pay more. And that's what everyone else
I love this
says.
analogy.
Yeah.
Everyone always says, oh, it costs so much more to eat organic or to buy all this clean food. Yeah. It costs a little bit more here, but then guess what? You're healthy pretty much your whole life. You feel awesome, like a sports car, or you go the other way and you're buy stuff that's cheaper. And guess what? You're going to the doctor. You're sick. Mm-hmm. You feel like shit all the time. What kind of life is that?
Facts.
It totally doesn't even equate.
Yeah. Good logic. Yeah. Healthy food is cheaper than hospital bills.
Yeah.
That's a great freaking analogy. It's hard to have discipline though, man. It's that's the thing. I get on these kicks, I feel great, and then next thing I know, boom, pull over. Let's hit some garbage food, But so I got a lot of respect for you taking that because I don't have
no garbage food.
I try not to. Yeah, but the thing about it is you don't have that much of a choice because it's engineered. It's
all around you.
That food is engineered. They're doing taste tests and all this crazy stuff and just tweaking that stuff so that it tastes so good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
I have a question for you. I did a 1 month diet where I was on the super low carb, no sugar. I was no sugar. It was a no sugar deal. And first 2 weeks, it was so hard. And then in that last 2 weeks, it felt like I was like, oh, I could do this. Is easy. Do you notice that like after doing it for a long time, it just like feels way easier?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, and sugar occurs naturally in all the fruits and stuff. Like it's not bad to have that in your diet at all. You know, it's just processed.
Yeah, processed sugar.
Yeah, that's what the problem is.
Mhm.
It's all the stuff once you process it. There's no nutrition in it. It's basically filler.
Yeah.
I hate filler in movies. I hate filler in food. Like, it just doesn't work out. Let's get to the bangers.
We had JP on the show and we asked him worst trend in snowboarding. He said filler. Such a good answer.
That's true.
All right, buds. What's it time for?
It's my favorite time of the episode. Pub beer time.
Crispy crack.
These hot days, man. Woo! Nothing like a pub beer.
If you're thinking about getting absolutely cross-eyed and losing your mind and drinking 78 beers, or just casually having one, what are you going to choose, bud?
Get just one, you know? Maybe 70, maybe one. I'm going to choose pub beer every time. It's cheap, fun, delicious, and man, on a hot day, nothing beats it.
Remember to do that responsibly. Okay, here we go.
Welcome to the Pub Beer Crap Shoot.
All right, roll them dice. We'll tell you what you got to do.
7.
Oh, 7. We get this one a lot.
That's a Goon Gear
Who's
logo.
your favorite person to party with?
Me?
Yeah.
Party with.
You're all me?
Well, since I don't really party too much anymore.
Hey, there's a lot of different ways to party, you know?
Yeah. I mean, my wife, of course.
Yeah, great answer.
Yeah. Catherine McEntire. That's what's up.
Perfect.
Love that. Let's give her an air horn. And I'm curious about this because, you know, you guys seem like a team. Whereas, you know, when I did Real Snow stuff, I remember, you know, she was the one I was emailing with and doing all the production stuff on the back end, and then you're doing the show. It seems like you guys have a great team thing going on. And how does all that work?
Works really good. Like, she's super good at producing. She's really, really, really nice person, and a lot of producers are not. So that's a whole different, like, people get tripped out by that. They're like, what is going on? Like, this producer's being so nice to me. They're like not working me and chiseling me on rates and like making me take all these lame airplane flights, actually letting me do my own flights and choose all this stuff. And like that is kind of rare. Like a producer job, you're trying to bring this thing in for a certain amount of money, right? So most producers are pretty cutthroat about that. That's their job. I respect it. You know, they're trying to do it. And if they can't do that, they don't have a job in the future, and we don't have the shoot because they're not doing it, right? Mm-hmm. She pushes it to the limit of using all the money to make it as enjoyable for everyone as possible. And so, yeah, it totally works. People love it. People love to work with her. And then that makes my job easier because people show up and they're happy. You know what I mean? All the crew's happy. They're getting their rate. Everyone's happy that's involved with it. And that's the kind of crew I want to be around.
And how do you guys manage the like business life relationship?
Well, they're all at this point, they're not super long projects for the most part. So it's pretty easy. We lock in on a project. It's like a dog on a pork chop. Get in there, tear it up,
get it done.
It's out the door. So it's intense, and then it's over. You know, but we you know, sometimes as can be known to be somewhat harsh, and I'm the director guy, so I can be a little bit lame and perceived that way. You know, like. You know, she set something up. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not the way it's going to go down. She's like, I just spent all this time doing that. I'm like, and I feel bad because, you know what I mean? Like, but you know, we work it out always. We're lifers.
Mm-hmm.
You're a team.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity too, because you had, you know, full-time production work. Now you do a little bit more intermittent things here, things there, freelance. I like that dog in a pork chop analogy. Do you think that's a good way of life of like diving into a project that's a little bit shorter, handling business, and then having free time?
I enjoy it. I got that term from Kearns, by the way, dog on a pork chop. He's He's always got some good, funny things to say. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward. Actually, I've got a couple other bigger projects in the works we've been trying to sell for a long time that are long form, and they've gotten really close this last year. We're still fingers crossed we're going to get it going, but I've been working on this Daredevil project. It's a motorcycle jumping thing from like the beginning guys before Evil all the way through to like the biggest jumps ever done that no one's ever even seen. Like, so we've been working on that off and on for maybe like 10 or 12 years at this point. And it's like a feature doc or a series. So we've been trying to pitch it as a series to like Netflix and all these people. And that has been close, but I think we're going to have to go into feature doc mode, and that'll be fun because that's like a long form, something that I haven't done, documentary thing. And it's amazing. Like the level of feats that are accomplished, you know, that's a very dangerous game. There's been a lot of tragedy in that sport. And so it has all of it, you know, the huge glory, the tragedy, lost a lot of friends, and that movie, it's got to come out. And then, you know, like I started a Peter Line documentary. This is super weird. Like I started a Peter Line documentary right when we stopped doing the annual movie. Peter was like, I kind of want to kickstart on my career. Can we do a documentary? Like he was still with Forum when it went to Burton and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, I want to do different things, documentary stuff. So me and Ross, Steffi, we went around. I bought some really good audio equipment, some cool lights, and we went around and we interviewed probably like 40 or 50 people over the course of a year or so. And we started making this thing, and we got to the point where I was like cutting it, and I was like, you know, it doesn't really have that much of an arc. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like Peter's a trip. Of course, he's weird. He's a genius.
Yeah.
Right. But it didn't like do much. You know what I mean? It's not like, where's his big downfall? Where does he rise from the ashes type of thing?
They
you know
never
what I
had
mean?
a downfall, huh?
He kind of did when Burton ended, but that was before that happened. Right. So
yeah, true.
So anyways, it just kind of slowly went into the back burner, right? And then all of a sudden we're doing Forum, and I'm like, wait a minute, what about all that old footage? And we start pulling stuff up, and there's like all these insane interviews of people like, you know, from 2007. So like they're dated, but no one's seen it. And it's like, it's a really cool project that I think it's going to be like probably not the Peter Line thing, but it'll be more like a Forum thing. But we have all this like A++ stuff for that. So
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
It's really cool, actually. I would trip out on it. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's weird how things happen for a reason. You know what I mean? And we had a couple of points we were like, I'm like, Peter, if you want to hire an editor, that's great. And we got petted on the line. We're like, okay, there's no money in this pet. Like if you do it, we got
a project for you.
You'll get a percentage.
Yeah, there you go.
And, you know, we all saw where the video sales were at that point. And he's like, no. Like, so Pete, do you want to fund it? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
he's like,
So it gets kind of got sidebarred. But
yeah.
It's coming. It's coming. That's something that's percolating up. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. It's that time of the show, buds.
Hot takes.
Let's go hot takes on them. So first thing we always ask is the GOAT, you know, greatest of all time, or we use Michael Jordan of snowboarding, both male and female. Who you got? To you. Who is it to you?
No way. There's no way. I'm not going down that road. I'm sorry. Like,
he's Louis Vito in this.
He's even taking a harder line than Louis.
You know, like, okay.
Boom.
I've been doing.
That's just a firm no.
I've been doing this since I've been filming snowboarding since like late 80s, early 90s, all the way till I was at Detour and watching the gnarliest pipe riders ever go off, and you know, like the stuff out at Heavy Metal this year was just like totally mind melting. Like I've seen so much crazy stuff, and there's been so many amazing athletes that I've worked with. I'm just definitely
There's not one though out of all those years that just was like, man, that guy. Nope.
I mean, there's tons of them.
There's 30 of them.
That's the problem. Like you can't just say, like, for me personally, how I got into it, who probably did the most for me and like got me into where I'm at. It was Noah Salasnek.
Great
you know?
answer.
Great answer.
It's a great answer. It's a totally.
Yeah.
We love that answer. We love that answer.
But
because to you, he's the guy that got you in and brought you into this thing, and
yeah, but like I'm saying, he was a super high level. But look at all these other people. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's.
But those guys didn't bring you in like he did, you know.
Yeah.
So that anyways.
All right. Well, we got another loaded one for you then. Most underrated of all time.
Roan Rodgers.
I agree with that one.
Great answer. Okay. Handrails or powder?
I'm a handrail aficionado.
Love that answer.
Yeah. I mean, I love powder too, but there's something about being in the streets. It's just, it's something awesome.
Pretty exciting out there in those streets.
It's
those
so
cold
cool.
streets.
I love it.
It can't be beat, really.
I love that answer. Best style?
That's another one that's like ridiculously hard to answer. Like that's so hard to answer. Like I'll just throw a couple names out there.
There you go.
A couple names.
Let's go.
Jamie Lynn. Like, come on.
Yep.
Like, what do you want out of snowboarding? You want to see someone do a method? Look at that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
JP Walker, Jeremy Jones, you know, like psycho style. I don't know. Like there's so many people. Danny Davis, like,
Yeah.
forget about it. Like,
Great answers.
I mean, that list is, I could sit here and just go off for like another
those
10
are
minutes.
acceptable. Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
So best board graphic?
I mean, I'm partial to Peter's rainbow, the pink rainbow board, just because it was, you know, it's just so like, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. I don't really care what anyone thinks at all. And everyone's going to hate it. And like, yeah, I'm doing like, it was so like, that is as punk rock as it gets to me. Like in that time frame too, you know what I mean? Like just like, so like, and it's funny, like his whole thing, like thinking that it would work, it totally didn't work. Like people totally liked it. And like all these people that were like tough guys liked it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But
That is, it's at the time that was so out of place and incredible.
it was just an amazing statement.
If you could see one musical artist, dead or alive, who would it be?
Jimi Hendrix.
Woo! If you could go heliboarding with 3 people in the world, who would you go with just for fun?
Well, I mean, this one's a personal one because these are people that I would like. If you're going heliboarding, this is my take on backcountry in general, and this is what our strategy was to always surround yourself with people that are gonna like help you live. You know what I mean? I don't really care about the whole like Seth Hewitt, Jeremy Jones, JP Walker. Like I would do with those guys because if something happened to me or anyone else, I would have 100% confidence that those people would be able to handle the situation and handle it as best as possible. And that's the most important thing when you're doing that sort of stuff.
I love that answer. Okay, last question. Worst trend. What do you got?
The worst trend is 9x16 filmmaking that people think is cool. That is the most hideous thing ever to happen to sports filmmaking.
Love that.
Solid. Dude, you know, this might be our best hot takes ever. But
killed it.
Well, I want to say I'm excited for what's coming up. I think Forum's going to be a great
That's
thing for
gonna be
snowboarding.
pretty exciting.
Good to know that it's run by snowboarders.
We've
too,
been
and
hyping
people.
up Forum on this show ever since we started, too. It's probably
True.
the most talked about brand on this show.
Yeah. Well, it's the nostalgia of it
Yeah.
alone, but it's also good to know it's not just nostalgia. You guys are doing cool stuff in the future, and are the boards good?
Yeah, dude, the boards are sick. I mean, what boards do you ride?
I ride the Capita boards.
It's Mothership. Huh?
Well, the Mothership is going to make our boards. I mean,
in my opinion, they make some really good
They make good boards.
so-
they make really good boards, and I'm pretty sure they're not doing boards for anyone else, and that's just like such a gift of those guys to help us out.
That is a gift.
Like that is a gift, and like thank you, Blue, and everyone at the Mothership for seeing that we want to bring something into snowboarding that's cool, and we want to like get some soul back into it and supporting us, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah,
and
other people would have said no, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
we went up to Hood just to test out some of the boards and got a chance to hang out with the Capita team a little bit, and just what an incredible group of kids. And like, it's just awesome, dude. Like I just feel so fortunate that they are helping us out. That's so cool.
I heard Peter was destroying it up there too.
He was
Looking real
destroying
good.
himself.
Destroying himself. He was destroying himself, but really going for it is what I heard, and looking really good.
You know, Peter always looks good on a snowboard.
Yeah, that's what
you know
it is.
what I mean.
He looks good in the air.
But I'd have a little talk with him, like, Pete,
slow down.
If we're gonna do this, you need to get to the gym because it looks like you need to get a little bit stronger if you're gonna be hitting the jumps again, and put those cigarettes down. But like, we need to get you back in top shape because you know, like, if you want to maintain and rip around with all the kids that we want to try and get going,
yeah,
I need you to be in a little bit better.
How did you take
here.
that?
I mean, he didn't like it, but by the same token, he's like, yeah, he knows.
I mean, if you're going to be riding at that level that he wants to,
I don't, and he doesn't want to like be like a team rider or anything.
yeah, but he wants to be able to show up and
hit the jump
and be Peter Line, you know.
Yeah, and he can be that.
Yeah.
He's not that old, and he didn't get that broken in snowboarding. He got off with a knee injury. That's about it. So
he had an amazing career.
Yeah, so he can come back and like the thing about like it's crazy to me is like watching Jeremy ride with his injury and know like the level of pain that he's in, and
He's like no other.
It is so mind-boggling to me. I can't even like comprehend it. It trips me out every time I see him ride, and then I see him hobbling around after. I'm just like, why, dude? Like, how can you do it? Like, but he just has to.
And then the next day, he's right back out there.
Yeah,
you know,
it's so incredible. Like, I don't know if people understand how focused he is and how like he's just held together. Like, and he just keeps charging. Like, it's just so mental. Him and like that mentality though. Like, if you look over at JP, who's actually still out there filming, and you're like, if Jeremy wasn't hurt, he would be right there with JP actually getting legit shots, and they're like in their late 40s or whatever. Like, what's happening? It's like the Kelly Slaters of
JP
of
or Jeremy
snowboarding.
came on a trip with us and got legit shots. I mean,
As a
these guys
broken
are
man.
incredible. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's totally crazy.
They're setting new standards for the sport.
Yeah, it's totally nuts.
Love to see it. Love to see that. It's pure passion too. If you have that many rods in your leg and you can barely walk like Jeremy, and you're still getting after it, it's pure passion. Well, I want to say, Dawger, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate you coming and sharing your story with us and our listeners. So.
Yeah, I would also like to say thank you for having me. I know it's been kind of you guys have hit me up before to come in here, and I don't like getting in front of the camera, and it's not my cup of tea. So I'm glad that I did, though. I also want to throw out some thanks. I mean, all the people that, if I sat here and thanked everyone, we were going to be here for another hour, but all the people that worked on the films, all my filmmakers, all the people that were in the films, every writer, all the musicians, all the people behind the scenes, Lori Vincent, and everyone who just put so much effort into making all those films what they were. They wouldn't happen without all you people. And then also all the people that presented opportunities, sponsored the films, and just gave us the opportunity to do what we wanted to do and to shape it the way we wanted. It wouldn't happen without everybody. So thank you all.
Well, and thank you for inspiring generations of kids like me to move west and pursue snowboarding.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm like, I don't really know what to say when people say that, but I'm like, I'm stoked that people like it. That was the whole point of it.
Yeah.
The whole point of putting all that effort into it is to get people stoked to snowboard and to get that feeling and want to do it and be part of it.
I mean, the sport needs it. Without it, there'd be way less snowboarders. So
thanks for not making snowboarding corny like it could be like
keeping
some other
it legit,
sports.
Right?
And same deal with technical difficulties is the one that made me sink my teeth into it. So it's so funny that it's all full circle. We're sitting here like the reason why we love this is because your videos and thanks for making snowboarding look cool to the bigger population and not making us look good and everything you've done for the sport and action sports as a whole. So thank you, Dawger. We really appreciate you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for having me on and also for doing something cool for the sport as well. Like, all I hear about everywhere I go is bomb hole, bomb hole, bomb hole. So you guys are doing something right. Like literally, that's all I hear. Like when people talk about snowboarding, it's bomb hole.
Love that.
Well, thanks for coming and doing, from what I hear, your first podcast, Dawger. So,
Yep.
And I want to say,
it might be the first and the last.
wow.
Woo!
Love it. Well, you killed it. It's been a great convo. And I want to say thank you so much to our listeners and everybody that tunes in. You guys kick ass. We really appreciate you. And we got another episode coming at you next week. Thanks, guys.